Chapter 764. What relationship do I have with them? The lady in red laughed as she raised her eyebrows slightly. Yun Xiao is my son and Yun Luofeng is my daughter-in-law. What relationship do you think I have with them? It was like a bolt of lightning striking down, stunning Lin Yuan on the spot. What did she just say? That man who was as cold as a god of death was her son? In other words, both of them were from the Yi family. If he was her son, why would his surname be Yun and not Yi? Long Fei was also stunned. Wasn't young Master Yun Xiao an orphan? When did a mother appear? However, regardless of whether this was true or not, the lady in red was protecting her master and young Master Yun Xiao. Just this alone was enough. The lady in red glanced at the dazed Lin Yuan and said coldly, "Now, do you know why I want to punish you? You treated my son and daughter-in-law in such a manner. Why do you think I should let you off?" As she spoke, the lady in red took a few steps forward as a murderous aura surged from her body. Lin Yuan took 2 steps back in fear and swallowed his saliva with difficulty. I didn't know that they were from the Yi family. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty, so, hua. The lady in red waved her sleeves slightly and a powerful force shot out swiftly, landing fiercely on Lin Yuan's stomach. Lin Yuan flew out in an instant as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. "I'll give you a chance. Dig 1,000 feet into the ground with me later." The lady in red raised her chin slightly. "Because of this, I can leave your corpses intact." Lin Yuan's face turned even paler. Just as he was about to reject her, the lady in red's voice caused his words to become stuck in his throat. "You can refuse to help, but believe me, I will make your deaths worse than the gray-robed man's." She wasn't talking about you, but all of you. Obviously, she included the other powerful cultivators as well. Fear flashed across the crowd's faces as they were filled with hatred and anger towards Lin Yuan. If not for him, perhaps they would not have encountered so much danger. "All right, you can start working now." The lady in red flicked her sleeves and found a tree stump to sit on. "Heroine," a weak voice came out from the crowd. "We don't have shovels, how are we going to dig?" "No shovels? Then use your hands. Are you going to take the initiative to dig, or do I have to supervise you?" She pulled out a leather whip from her waist and flung it on the ground. There was a fierce look in her eyes. "Hurry up and go." As soon as he finished speaking, those people who had been indifferent immediately pissed their pants in fear. They staggered towards the ground that had swallowed Yun Luofeng and the others, using their hands to dig the ground. Underground, Yun Luofeng sat in a passageway, dumbfounded. He was somewhat speechless. Fu Xing was a little surprised. "There's actually a passage here? And it was such a long tunnel? I wonder who was so powerful to be able to dig such a long path." The corner of Yun Luofeng's eyebrow twitched slightly. "This passage was dug by the gold-seeking rat in my hands. It leads to the outside of the forest of no return. I didn't expect to fall back into the tunnel." The look in Fu Xing's eyes became more and more surprised. Perhaps he did not expect that this passageway was formed because of Yun Luofeng. They never expected that they would be so lucky to fall back into the tunnel. Chapter 765. Yun Luofeng smiled and turned to look at Yun Xiao. "Yun Xiao, I haven't asked you yet. How did you know that it wasn't me?" "Intuition." Yun Xiao's voice was low and hoarse. "The feeling he gave me was different from yours. Besides, Lin Ruoxin framed me back then and deliberately made people think that I wanted to rape that young man. Why did you choose to believe me?" "Because..." Yun Xiao raised her head and looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. "I knew you wouldn't." No matter how others misunderstood her, it was enough as long as he knew that she wouldn't. Fu Xing's body trembled slightly and she fell into deep thought. Trust? So it turns out that when you love someone, you have to give them all your trust. It was precisely because she hadn't trusted him enough that she had been deceived by the things before her eyes. That was why she had missed out on him for so many years. Even if she had understood everything later on, she couldn't go back to the past. "Thank you." Fu Xing opened her mouth slightly, her eyes filled with gratitude. As intelligent as she was, how could she not know that Yun Luofeng had purposely said those words for her to hear? Yun Luofeng smiled. She had indeed said those words on purpose. Her goal was to let Fu Xing understand that when you love someone, you have to trust them. And this was all she could do for Tianya. Let's go. Yun Luofeng gently shrugged her shoulders. Once the gray-robed man is dead, the seals on the other beast kings will be released. I'm no longer needed here. Fu Xing smiled gently. In the future, if you encounter any danger, come to the Forest of No Return. All the spiritual beasts in the Forest of No Return will fight to the death to ensure your safety. Yun Luofeng did not say anything else and walked towards the front of the tunnel. Yun Shao followed closely by her side, her grim black robes fluttering despite the lack of wind. A smile appeared in Fu Xing's eyes as she watched the two leave. She quickly chased after them. The tunnel was extremely long and inclined upwards. Fortunately, the three of them were not weak, so this degree of inclination was nothing to them. Yun Luofeng did not know how long she had walked before she saw a ray of light. When she saw the light, she could not help but quicken her pace. Sunlight cascaded down into the cave. When Yun Luofeng stepped out of the cave, she could feel the warmth of the sunlight. A gentle smile appeared on her beautiful face. We're finally out. She turned around and looked at Fu Xing, who was following closely behind her. Yun Shao and I should leave the Forest of No Return. When you return, say goodbye to Long Fei on my behalf. Fu Xing smiled. It's my disciple's fortune to have met you. Yun Luofeng took one last look at Fu Xing before turning to look at the man beside her. At this moment, her smile was exceptionally charming. Yun Shao, let's go. Fu Xing raised her head and stared at the two figures walking forward. Then, she turned around and quickly walked towards the Forest of No Return. In the depths of the Forest of No Return, it was a barren land of disciples. All the trees had been burnt to a crisp, leaving only a few stumps. At this moment, a group of people were desperately digging the soil on the bare land. They were so tired that they were drenched in sweat, but they did not stop. Yi Jingchen stood next to the woman in red and hugged her tightly. He comforted her. Don't worry. They'll definitely be safe and sound. The woman in red clenched her fists tightly as worry filled her eyes. In the end, she took a deep breath and said, Brother Yi, give me a shovel. I'll help too. Chapter 766. Yi Jingchen was startled, but he didn't say anything. He ordered the people next to him to bring 2 shovels. Su Zheng had already joined the digging team. His claws were sharper than any shovel, and he was digging the ground with all his might. Ah! A weak voice that could disappear at any time came from the mountain path. It's useless. You can't save them. By the time you dig 1,000 feet into the ground, they will have been suffocated to death. The woman in red glanced at the man in gray coldly. Yo, you're not dead yet? There's only one kind of person I, Jun Fengling, admire the most in my life. People who can't die no matter how much I beat, cut, or burn them. On the mountain path, the man in gray's body had already emitted a burnt smell. His flesh had long been cut off by Jun Fengling, revealing his white bones. Even so, he was still panting and staring weakly at Jun Fengling. What are you doing? But at this moment, a light voice came from behind everyone, and there was a clear look of confusion in her eyes. Hearing this familiar voice, the shovel in Long Fei's hand fell to the ground with a thud. He stiffly turned his head, and when he saw the green-robed woman slowly walking towards him, he suddenly felt as if his throat was choked. Master, Long Fei, what are you doing? Fu Xing frowned slightly and asked. Long Fei's body suddenly trembled, and a look of excitement appeared on his face. He no longer cared about anything else and rushed towards Fu Xing. At this moment, everyone could feel his inner emotions. Master. Long Fei only stopped when he was in front of Fu Xing. His voice was still trembling as he asked, Are you all right? Fu Xing nodded slightly. I've made you worry. By the way, Master, where are my masters? Why didn't they come out with you? Also, why did you come from another direction? In an instant, Jun Fengling put down the shovel in his hand and looked at Fu Xing. Fu Xing curled his lips slightly. There happened to be a passage under the ground. We passed through that passage and arrived outside the Forest of No Return. The 2 of them have already left. Left? Jun Fengling was stunned for a moment. After coming back to his senses, he looked determined and said, "Brother Yi, let's go." The two of them shouldn't have gone too far. Wait a minute. Yi Jingchen seemed to have thought of something. His eyes scanned the crowd and finally landed on a middle-aged man. "Please draw their portraits for me." Jun Fengling was stunned. She had forgotten that they had never seen Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng before. If they were to search blindly, when would they be able to find them? The middle-aged man shuddered. "I don't know how to draw. The painter is from the Jia family, yet you're telling me that you don't know how to draw." Yi Jingchen sneered. "Do you think I'll believe you? However, in order to save time, you can only come with us first. I'll let you go after you're done. However, if the characters you draw don't look like them, then you should understand the Yi family's methods." The middle-aged man was terrified, but he didn't dare to resist. He swallowed his saliva and asked, "Will you really let me go after I finish drawing it?" Yi Jingchen nodded. "Not bad. All right, I'll go with you." Chapter 767. It was better to follow them than to stay in the forest of no return. "Brother Yi, I suddenly forgot that there's one more thing to deal with." Jun Fengling's lips curled slightly, her phoenix eyes glancing at the trembling Lin Yuan. "I almost forgot about this person." Thinking of this, she turned to Su Zhang. "Spirit beasts have always liked to tear their food apart. I'll leave this human to you spirit beasts. Do it as cruelly as you can. It's best if you make him wish he was dead." Lin Yuan screamed. "You said that you'll leave my corpse intact. You said that you won't torture me. How can you go back on your word?" To him, leaving his corpse intact was a luxury. Jun Fengling gently stroked her chin, her red dress slowly rose, accentuating her imposing manner. "So what if I go back on my word? When have I, Jun Fengling, ever kept my word? Especially to people like you." Having said that, she strode onto the horse and said, "Brother Yi, let's go." Lin Yuan's body was sprawled on the ground, his face ashen. If he had known earlier, he would not have been corrupted by greed and ruined his life. "Brother Yi, did you notice that there's something strange about the forest of no return?" On the horse, Jun Fengling hugged the man sitting in front of her, a puzzled look flashed across her eyes. Such a big thing happened in the forest of no return, but the legendary holy beasts never appeared. Do you think something happened to the holy beasts? The reason why the forest of no return was so frightening was because there were a few holy beasts in the forest. One must know that among humans, a clan with a holy spirit could become one of the best. What more the forest of no return which had a few holy beasts? Once the forest of no return lost those holy beasts, it would become a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. The forest of no return, Shao, and fallen maple have an unbreakable connection, so we must keep this a secret. Yi Jingchen was silent for a while, then spoke in a voice that only the two of them could hear. "I understand. Since those spirit beasts are friendly to Shao and fallen maple, they're our friends. I won't let anyone have any ideas about the forest of no return." Jun Fengling's expression was resolute. She looked at the group of humans behind her, and a fierce look flashed across her eyes. "I wonder if these people have sensed anything. If they have sensed the changes in the forest of no return, then let me be the villain and kill these people." If the forest of no return had a good relationship with her son and daughter-in-law, then in order to protect the forest of no return, what was wrong with being the villain for once? No one could know that something had happened to the Holy Spirit beast. "Let's go look for Miss Shao and Maple first. I'll send someone to settle the matter here. Don't worry." Yi Jingchen smiled. No matter what Jun Fengling wanted to do, he would give her the greatest support. Kargalik. It was not far from the forest of no return, only a few days' journey away. Kargalik was originally very rundown, but after Yi Jingchen, who had been expelled from the Yi family, came, it became more prosperous. At this moment, Yi Shima was about to leave the Yi residence when he heard a voice that sounded like an oriole singing behind him. "Big brother, you've been running for so many days and still haven't found them. Why don't you bring me along?" Yi Chi blinked and looked at Yi Shima with anticipation. "Don't worry, I'll listen to you obediently and won't cause you any trouble." Chapter 768. Yi Shima stopped in his tracks and furrowed his brows. Stay at home and wait for godfather and godmother to return. Don't get involved with those scoundrels. After saying this, Yi Shima walked out of the courtyard without looking back. Yi Qi bit her lip as she stared in the direction where Yi Shima had left. Her eyes were filled with indignation. Why was it that no matter how hard she tried and how obedient she was, Big Brother still hated her? What should she do to get rid of his prejudice against her? Yi Shima walked out of the courtyard and looked at the vast sky. He frowned slightly and said, "It's been a few days. I've been to all the surrounding cities, big and small, but I can't find them. How am I going to find my brother and sister-in-law?" Ha! Suddenly, a giggle could be heard from a tree nearby. Yi Shima looked in the direction of the voice and saw a little girl with 2 pigtails sitting on a tree. The little girl was as fair as jade, and when she smiled, her eyes were like crescent moons. She was wearing a fiery red dress, which made her look even more adorable and beautiful. Why did you come out?" Yi Shima was stunned. To be honest, he still did not know where this little girl came from. He only knew that his godfather had brought her out of the Yi family. However, the Yi family did not seem to know about this little girl's existence. The little girl's feet dangled on the tree. She held onto the tree trunk with both hands and smiled adorably. "You're so stupid. I heard from Yi Jingchen that the lady named Yun Luofeng is a doctor. If that's the case, she'll definitely be interested in the black market in the neighboring city." This little girl was the only person in the entire Kargalik who dared to call Yi Jingchen by his name. However, Yi Jingchen was very indulgent about this. Fortunately, this little girl did not appear in public. Otherwise, they would definitely misunderstand that she was his daughter. "Are you talking about Qin City?" Yi Shima's eyes lit up. How could he have forgotten that there were many medicinal herbs in the black market that could not be bought even at auctions? Of course, if one wanted to buy precious medicinal herbs, one had to be observant. Since Yun Luofeng was a doctor, she would definitely be interested in the black market in Qin City. And he had actually forgotten about this. "Fire, I really have to thank you this time. If it wasn't for you pointing me in the right direction, I wouldn't know how to find him." Yi Shima laughed heartily. Fire curled his lips. "Don't be in such a hurry to thank me. I helped you guys because Yi Jingchen said he would help me find someone. If he hadn't agreed to my request, I wouldn't have left the Yi family with him. Fire, I have never asked you, what is your relationship with the Yi family? Also, who is the person you are looking for? Why do you always appear and disappear unpredictably?" In the Yi residence, other than Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling, only Yi Shima knew of Fire's existence. Even Yi Qi had never seen her before. "Don't ask me so many questions, I don't want to answer you." Fire jumped down from the tree and landed in front of Yi Shima. "However, I can tell you that I will only stay by your side for 3 years. This is what I promised Yi Jingchen. You don't want to answer my other questions, but my surname is Yi after all. Can you tell me your relationship with the Yi family? Why has no one discovered you after staying in the Yi family for so many years?" Yi Shima asked curiously. Chapter 769. Hearing this, Fire pursed his lips. "Yi family? They don't deserve to know of my existence." Yi Shima blinked and looked at the little girl standing in front of him in surprise. Fire patted Yi Shima's shoulder. "Aren't you going to the medical city? This time, I plan to go with you." Yi Shima was stunned. "You want to go to the medical city with me?" Fire nodded his head. "The person I'm looking for should also be a doctor." She used should, not sure. This made Yi Shima even more confused. Could it be that Fire didn't know who he was looking for? "Big brother." At this moment, Yi Qi's clear voice came from the door. After hearing this voice, Yi Shima subconsciously used his body to block Fire because he knew that Fire didn't want too many people to know of her existence. Even so, Yi Qi still caught a glimpse of Fire, who was blocked behind Yi Shima. "Big brother, who is she?" Yi Qi bit her lips tightly, and her expression didn't look too good. Her big brother, who had always been cold to her, was now so protective of the little girl, as if he was afraid that she would hurt this little girl. "Yi Shima, it's time for us to set off." Fire didn't even look at Yi Qi. He flicked the dust off his red dress and said with his mouth pursed, "All right." Yi Shima retracted his gaze and nodded lightly. "Carry me, Yi Shima looked at the little girl in front of him speechlessly. Don't you have legs? I don't want to walk, carry me. Fire was very willful. Otherwise, I'll tell Yi Jingchen that you bullied me. Yi Shima squatted down helplessly. Come on up. Fire's face revealed a bright smile as she climbed onto Yi Shima's back. Her eyes were very bright, like the bright moon. Big brother. Looking at the scene in front of her, Yi Chi couldn't believe it. The big brother that she had always respected was actually carrying a little girl on his back? Moreover, this little girl even called her foster father by his name? Yi Chi, guard the Yi residence. I'm going to leave for a few days. Yi Shima turned to look at Yi Chi. After giving her some instructions, he walked toward the city gate. Fire, you're so heavy. It's time to lose weight. Stupid Shimo, what nonsense are you talking about? Fire slapped Yi Shima on the head and said angrily, I'm very light. I'm lighter than a feather. You're too weak. Lighter than a feather? What would that become? The corners of Yi Shima's mouth twitched and a look of helplessness flashed across his handsome face. This girl was really a living ancestor. Qin City was famous for its black market. Many doctors came here because of its reputation. Thus, Qin City was always bustling no matter what. But at this moment, a panicked voice suddenly came from the originally bustling street. Quick, get out of the way, it's the Mu family. For the Mu clan to be so flustered, did something happen? No matter what it is, it's better for us to stay away so that we don't get into trouble. I don't want to provoke the Mu clan. Everyone moved a few meters away. Even the people who were setting up stalls hurriedly closed their stalls to avoid the rampaging team. In the black market, the noise stopped as a group of people arrived. Everyone looked at the Mu clan who was rushing over and was so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Chapter 770. The leader of the Mu family was a cold and handsome man. He held a large knife in his hand and stabbed it into the ground with a bang. Everyone here, listen up. Hand over all the medicinal ingredients in the black market. Furthermore, all the other doctors who came to the black market, hand over all your medicinal ingredients as well. Not a single one is missing. Yun Luofeng, who was selecting medicinal ingredients in front of the black market stall, stopped what he was doing when he heard this. He smirked and swept his gaze over the Mu family. This is a robbery? The stall owner trembled and said, the Mu family used to be bandits who occupied the mountains. Later on, they became stronger and established a family. Therefore, it is not surprising that they would behave like bandits. Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and narrowed his eyes with a dangerous glint. Robbery? It was just a matter of who was robbing who. The man from the Mu family saw that no one was moving and became even angrier. Did you not hear what I said? Hand over all the medicinal ingredients immediately. If you hide even one, I will not let you off easily. The stall owners were all ordinary people who were lucky enough to obtain some medicinal ingredients and sell them in the black market. However, the doctors who were selecting medicinal ingredients were not easy to get along with. An old man sneered and looked at the man from the Mu family with disdain. Mu family, you sure talk big. Are you trying to offend all the doctors in the world? Haha. The man laughed maniacally. Doctors? Others might be afraid of you, but my Mu family has never been afraid. I don't care if you are doctors or anyone else. You must hand over the medicinal ingredients. Otherwise, I will use your blood to wash my knife. He waved the knife in his hand and his face carried a hint of viciousness. What do you need so many medicinal ingredients for? The old man was a little angry. You can't become fat in one bite. It is useless for you to have so many medicinal ingredients. The man snorted. If the medicinal ingredients were useless, I would not have come to rob you. As for their use, I do not need to tell you. The old man was so angry that his body trembled. He pointed at the man but could not say a word. If you do not want to die, hand over the medicinal ingredients. The man looked around with a fierce gaze and said sternly, if you don't hand over the medicinal ingredients, I will start a massacre. The man's expression was too ferocious. Coupled with that frightening broadsword, he successfully frightened everyone present. No matter how unwilling they were, those people still agreed to take out the medicinal herbs. In the entire crowd, only Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao didn't make any movements, and they looked as if this matter had nothing to do with them. Miss, hand over the medicinal ingredients as well. The people from the Mu clan are not to be trifled with. The peddler next to him kindly reminded him and sighed slightly. Yun Luofeng did not seem to hear him at all. His peerless features lit up with a smile as his pitch-black eyes stared quietly at the Mu family. The man from the Mu family waved his hand and ordered his subordinates to use a burlap sack to collect the herbs. Then he discovered Yun Luofeng, who was standing there without moving, and his eyebrows furrowed together. Did the two of you not hear what I said? Or are you not afraid of death? Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly and said with an evil smile, I really want to know if you have the ability to snatch the medicinal herb from my hands. Chapter 771. The Mu family man's face darkened. The anger in his chest gradually rose as he stared coldly at Yun Luofeng. Then I will show you whether or not I have the ability to do so. Boom. The Mu family man's aura surged and his fist pressed towards Yun Luofeng like a mountain. His lips curled into a cruel smile as if he could already imagine the scene of this young girl vomiting 3 liters of blood under his attack. Just as he arrived in front of Yun Luofeng, a cruel aura rushed towards him. What followed was a cold shout, scram. A mouthful of fresh blood sprayed out and the Mu family man quickly retreated. He clutched his chest and stared in shock at the cruel man in front of Yun Luofeng. From the moment he saw this man, the Mu family man came to a conclusion. This man is very powerful. When did such a powerful cultivator come to Qin City? The Mu family man's mind raced. He joined his fists and said, Sir, I was blind and didn't know that you were hiding so much. Therefore, I apologize to you here and hope that the Mu family can be friends with you. The Mu family has always bullied the weak and feared the strong. If they met a spineless person, they would bully them to death. However, if they met someone powerful, no matter how arrogant they would have to lower their heads. However, Yun Xiao completely ignored him. His handsome face was expressionless and his eyes were as cold as an eagle's. To him, he didn't care about anyone, let alone the Mu family. However, the Mu family man didn't know Yun Xiao's personality and thought that he was looking down on the Mu family. Instantly, his expression turned ugly. So what if you are powerful? There are many powerful cultivators in the Mu family. Do you think we are afraid of you? You don't want to be friends with the Mu family? Fine, then we will be irreconcilable enemies. However, the Mu family man wasn't a brainless person. After realizing that he couldn't defeat Yun Xiao, he merely threw down one sentence. I only wanted to be friends with you out of goodwill. I didn't think that you wouldn't give me any face. If that's the case, then we'll see. He fiercely flung his sleeves, turned around, and wanted to leave. However, at this moment, an evil voice suddenly rang out from behind him. It sounded like it came from hell and caused his body to stiffen. Did I say you could leave? The man from the Mu family clenched his fists tightly as anger surged in his chest. He turned to look at Yun Luofeng and asked, Then what do you want? I don't want to do anything. Yun Luofeng's black eyes were filled with an evil aura as he slowly approached the man from the Mu family. I just want to rob you. Robbery? The man from the Mu family widened his eyes. In this life, he had robbed countless people, but this was the first time someone had robbed him. Was she sure she wasn't joking? The others were also stunned. They didn't expect Yun Luofeng to be so daring. He even dared to rob the Mu family. After all, there was a venerable spiritualist in the Mu clan. There were more venerable spiritualists in the Wuhui continent than in the Dragonroar continent, but they were not as numerous as the Dragonroar continent. In fact, there were at most 2 venerable spiritualists in each city. However, to Qin Qing, both of them were in the Mu clan. As for the holy spirits, there was no need to mention them. Even in the entire Wuhui continent, there were only a few of them. Furthermore, each of them could cause the entire continent to tremble with a stomp of their feet. Chapter 772. Are you sure you want to rob me? The man from the Mu family pointed at his own nose, his tone filled with disbelief. Before he could react, Yun Luofeng had already made her move. She raised her leg and kicked the man from the Mu family out of the way. He fell into the crowd with a thud. Because she was too fast, the people from the Mu family could not react in time. In a few steps, she had already arrived in front of the man from the Mu family. When he tried to stand up, the tip of her foot had already stepped on his chest. What on earth do you want? The man from the Mu family was very angry and he glared angrily at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows and said roguishly, "Robbery! Hand over all the valuables you have." The man from the Mu family was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This woman really wanted to rob him? Ever since he had entered the Mu family, this was the first time he had been bullied like this. "I don't have anything." As the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. He knew that he had underestimated Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. Hence he gave in. Yun Luofeng's eyes swept over the man under her foot and turned to look at the space ring on his finger. "Are you going to take it off yourself, or do you want me to chop off your finger?" The man from the Mu family's face was ashen, but in the end, he still took off the ring and threw it angrily in front of Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng did not mind. She bent down to pick up the space ring from the ground and her dark eyes carried a slight smile. "What else do you have? Hand it all over." "Nothing else." The man's expression was ugly. "All my belongings are in this space ring. What else do you want?" Yun Luofeng raised the corners of her lips and continued to look at the man from the Mu family. Suddenly, she bent down and took out a pouch from the man's lapels. There were a few copper coins in that pouch. The man from the Mu family stared in shock. Normally, even when he was robbing someone, he would not take out a single copper coin from the other party. After all, to them, these few copper coins were not worth much. But this woman, she even took away the token of love given to her by the widow Wang next door? There was only one person who could rob someone to this extent. "Looks like you really don't have anything else on you." Yun Luofeng turned to look at the rest of the Mu family and said lazily, "Do you want to hand over your belongings yourselves, or do I have to do it?" The Mu family's people were all led by that man. Now that he had been robbed, they naturally did not dare to struggle. They could only endure the pain and throw out all their belongings. Spatial rings weren't something that everyone had. Therefore, those people couldn't find a single precious item even after searching through their entire bodies. Even so, Yun Luofeng still kept all their belongings. "Can we leave now?" The man from the Mu family held his breath and asked fiercely. Yun Luofeng nodded. When the man from the Mu family heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. He hurriedly waved his hand and was about to leave with his subordinates. Right at this moment, that nightmarish voice rang out again from behind him. "That's right, the materials you're wearing are all of the best quality. If you sell them, you can probably get a few hundred taels of silver. So, leave your clothes and leave." The man from the Mu family staggered and almost knelt on the ground. Tears streamed down his cheeks. He had been a bandit for so many years, but now, he had met a woman who was more like a bandit than he was. Chapter 773. Guard Captain. The guards of the Mu family hurriedly looked at the man, their faces filled with nervousness. The man took a deep breath and said coldly, "Take off your clothes." After saying this, he had already taken off his clothes. When the others saw him like this, they did not dare to say anything else. Fortunately, Yun Luofeng was still a bit humane. He left them a pair of underpants and did not let them run around naked in broad daylight. Even so, the people of the Mu family felt that their dignity had been greatly damaged. They could already imagine that from now on, the Mu family would become the laughingstock of Qin City. It was one thing to be robbed, but in the end, he was robbed to the point where he was only left with his underpants. How could those who had been hurt by the Mu family give up on this joke? "Miss, you've caused trouble this time." The kind-hearted vendor sighed when he saw Yun Luofeng walking back. The Mu family is very strong. They have 2 venerable spirit realm cultivators. You've provoked them, they will definitely not let you off. In the face of the vendor's good intentions, Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. "I was born not to be afraid of trouble." The vendor knew that Yun Luofeng would not listen to his words, and could not help but sigh again. However, due to the departure of the Mu family, the medicinal herbs were left on the ground. Thus, the vendor hurried forward to look for the medicinal herbs that he had just robbed. When he came back to his senses, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao had already walked far away. Amidst the bustling crowd, Yi Shima's eyes lit up as he looked in the direction that Yun Luofeng had left. His expression was one of reverence. Did you see that? This is a true robbery. Compared to this girl, those bandits are too inferior. Only such a person is worthy of being called a bandit. Just as he finished speaking, fire jumped up from his back and quickly flew in the direction that Yun Luofeng had left. However, because there were too many people in the black market, those people kept squeezing forward, wanting to find the medicinal herbs that they had lost. As a result, when fire squeezed out of the crowd with all his might, he realized that the snow-white figure had disappeared. Where is he? Fire's face was filled with anxiety. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have watched the show. Why did he disappear in a while? Fire. Yi Shima squeezed to Fire's side and asked, "What happened?" Fire clenched her small fists tightly. "I think I found the person I was looking for, but she disappeared again." "You never knew who you were looking for, so how could you be sure that she was the one you were looking for?" Fire raised his eyes, his gaze filled with determination. "I feel that she is the person I am looking for." Yi Shima didn't say anything else. He raised his hand and patted Fire's head. "Since you're sure that it's her, I'll find her for you even if I have to turn the entire Qin city upside down." Fire's eyes shone with a bright light. She nodded her head vigorously. No matter where she went, she would find her. Inside the inn, Yun Luofeng had just entered his room and poured himself a cup of tea when Little Mo's voice sounded in the depths of his mind. "Master, I sensed a familiar aura in the black market just now. Do you know who it is?" Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and asked. "I don't know him." Little Mo's voice was filled with confusion. "However, I can feel that that person's aura is the same as the divine grimoire of medicine. Perhaps it has something to do with the divine grimoire?" Chapter 774. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and raised an eyebrow. "As the guardian spirit of the divine grimoire, you don't know anything?" Xiao Mo blushed. "It's true that I'm the guardian spirit of the divine grimoire of medicine, but I was born. Because the spiritual energy in the divine grimoire space was too dense in the beginning, my existence was born. I don't know anything that happened before that." Yun Luofeng sighed. It seemed that Xiao Mo really didn't know anything. "Then do you know if that person is good or bad for the divine grimoire space?" Xiao Mo was silent for a moment, then slowly said, "I only know that if she can be loyal to you, Master, it's not a bad thing." Hearing this, Yun Luofeng was relieved. The divine grimoire space was very important to her. She didn't want too many people to endanger its existence. Yun Luofeng turned to look at Yun Xiao. The corners of his lips curled up lazily as he gazed at her with a smile. "I think we should stay in Qin City for a few more days." She wanted to know who the person who was connected to the divine grimoire of medicine was. All right. He would never refuse Yun Luofeng's request. As for the Mu family that he had just provoked, it wasn't within his scope of consideration. "I'm tired." Yun Luofeng slowly stood up, gently narrowed his eyes, and gradually approached Yun Xiao. "Can you warm my bed for me first?" She hadn't broken through to the venerable spirit rank yet, so she couldn't completely devour the man in front of her, but that didn't mean that she couldn't take advantage of him. As long as she hadn't taken that last step, the divine grimoire of medicine wouldn't stop her from doing other things. Looking at the girl's beautiful face, the man's Adam's apple bobbed. He stretched out his arm and pulled the girl's body fiercely into his embrace. Smelling the fragrance of medicine emanating from the girl's body, the man's heart gave birth to a faint impulse. Unfortunately, just as the impulse surged, he used his spiritual energy to suppress it. Yun Luofeng's black eyes were filled with smiles. "How is it that every time we're on the verge of something we stop? How can you endure it?" Actually, Yun Luofeng's question was nonsense. Every time he was in high spirits, her period would come on time. How could he continue? However, even though Yun Luofeng's question was nonsense, Yun Xiao still replied very seriously. "The books say that if a woman continues with her period, she will fall sick. Aren't you afraid of suffocating?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked playfully. "I can restrain myself." Yun Xiao's eyes stared deeply at Yun Luofeng as she spoke in a low voice. Furthermore, I don't want to hurt you, he didn't want to hurt her, that was all. Yun Luofeng's heart warmed, and he smiled warmly. Xianxia, I'll break through to become a venerable spiritualist as soon as possible for you. Xianxia looked at the young girl in his arms. Even if you're not a venerable one, I'll still protect you for life. He believed that Yun Luofeng wanted to become a venerable spiritualist as soon as possible because he wanted to be powerful enough. However, he didn't know that her true goal was something else. Let's sleep. The young girl stood on her tiptoes and gently planted a kiss on the man's lips. Then, she struggled out of the man's embrace and slowly walked towards the bed. If other people were to find out that they had shared the same bed for so many days and nothing had happened, they would certainly not believe it. Perhaps, they would think that Xianxia was impotent. In reality, Xianxia had only restrained his body's impulse. Even so, he was still in pain and happiness as he slept with the woman he loved in his arms. Chapter 775. What did you say? In the Mu family, in an exquisite and luxurious hall, a middle-aged man suddenly rose to his feet. His eyes were fierce and fierce. Someone is really so bold as to rob my Mu family? The man from the Mu family knelt on the ground respectfully, reporting to Master, not only did she rob the Mu family, she didn't even leave us a single piece of clothing. Please give me justice, Master. Every time he thought about how he had lost face in front of everyone, he couldn't help but grit his teeth in hatred. He wanted nothing more than to tear Yun Luofeng to pieces. He robbed my Mu family's money. I'd like to see if he has the fortune to enjoy it. The middle-aged man scoffed coldly and said fiercely, Let's go. Get the weapons. Kill this bunch of bastards. Let the world understand that they can provoke anyone but the Mu family. The Mu family's master, Mu Qingran, may sound refined, but in reality, Mu Qingran was a bandit leader. And the Mu family had started off by robbing others. Bandits were not reasonable people. Furthermore, Yun Luofeng had already bullied them at their doorstep. How could he swallow his anger? So, Mu Qingran immediately sent someone to find out where Yun Luofeng was staying, then brought a group of people to cause trouble for her. In the inn, Yun Luofeng had just laid down on the bed when she heard a commotion outside. The noise grew louder and louder. Not long after, a foot kicked open the room door with a loud thud. Then, a rough voice sounded from outside. Who robbed my Mu family's people? Come out immediately. Yun Luofeng gently frowned. She knew that the Mu family would come looking for trouble, but she never thought that they would come so quickly. At this moment, a gentle-looking middle-aged man walked into the room. But it was undeniable that the rough voice just now had come from this middle-aged man. As the saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover. Who would have thought that such a gentle-looking middle-aged man was the bandit leader? Yun Zhao's body temperature dropped a few degrees and the entire room was filled with a cold aura. His black eyes faintly revealed a murderous intent as he stared expressionlessly at the group of people who had just entered the room. What? Did we not rob you enough during the day, and now you continue to deliver yourself to our doorstep? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile that was not a smile. At this moment, everyone in the inn was attracted. Everyone was pointing at Yun Luofeng's room. But no one expected that this young lady would suddenly say such a thing, and everyone was shocked silly. Did she really not want to live anymore? How dare he talk to the bandit leader of the Mu clan like this? Ha! Mu Qingran laughed coldly. You really are a newborn calf that doesn't fear a tiger. The youngsters nowadays are getting more and more savage with each generation. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and smiled faintly. The old people nowadays aren't anything good. They're just taking advantage of their seniority. Mu Qingran's expression immediately darkened. Old people? He was only in his early 40s, but in this girl's mouth, he had become an old man who flaunted his seniority. Moreover, in the entire Qin city, there was simply no one that dared to speak to him like this. I'll give you one chance. Hand over all the items you've robbed, and then kowtow to me a few times. Perhaps then I'll forgive you. Mu Qingran laughed coldly. Her eyes carried a sense of superiority as she looked down at Yun Luofeng from above. Chapter 776. Yun Luofeng glanced at him wickedly and said mockingly, If you're willing to scram and leave immediately, Perhaps I won't hold you accountable for barging into my room. Mu Qingran's pupils constricted. Was this girl really not afraid of the Mu family? Disappear in 3 seconds. Yun Luofeng raised his brows slightly. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave. Mu Qingran's face turned even more ashen. If he was really intimidated by this girl, where would he find a foothold in Qin City in the future? Thinking of this, Mu Qingran said mockingly, "Then I'd like to see how you'll make me disappear." As soon as Mu Qingran said this, the man in black next to Yun Luofeng finally moved. He quickly picked up the black robe and draped it over his body. Then, with a leap, he disappeared like a gust of black wind. By the time Mu Qingran came to his senses, he found that a hand had suddenly grabbed his neck. His black robe was raised, and a murderous aura pervaded the entire room. Mu Qingran's expression froze. He hadn't even seen Yun Shao make a move. The man had already appeared in front of him. In particular, the man's frightening aura made all the pores on his body open up, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. What's going on? Why isn't the head of the Mu family resisting? In everyone's eyes, Mu Qingran had been caught in Yun Zhao's hand before he could even resist. Only Mu Qingran himself knew that he'd kicked a metal plate this time. He'd even kicked his toes until they hurt. But if he left just like that, the Mu family would lose all face. They might even lose their prestige in Qin City. Mu Qingran gritted his teeth and said, "Do you know what kind of person I, Mu Qingran, am?" Yun Zhao's face was expressionless, his eyes cold. Only the hand around Mu Qingran's neck tightened. Mu Qingran almost suffocated. He held his breath and said, "Have you heard of the Yi family? I have people in the Yi family." In order to prevent others from noticing that he'd given in, Mu Qingran deliberately lowered his voice. He'd originally come in a rage. Now, before these people could experience the Mu family's power, their lives were already in his hands. If others were to find out, they might laugh at him. "Yun Shao, kill him." Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips and smiled evilly. "He's too much of an eyesore." "No." Feeling her breathing become more and more difficult, Mu Qingran's expression became anxious as she hurriedly said, "I really do know someone from the Yi family. The Yi family's Yi Jingxin's adopted daughter, Yi Qi, has a close relationship with my daughter. If you don't want to provoke the Yi clan, you'd better let me go." Even if Yi Jingxin was kicked out of the Yi family, he was still a descendant of the Yi family. As long as he admitted his mistake and divorced his wife to marry someone else, the Yi family would never reject his return. That was why Mu Qingran had tossed Yi Jingxin out. "This is the first time I've seen someone use Yi Qi to act like a tyrant." Suddenly, a voice came from behind the door, and everyone turned to look at him. It was a handsome man. His eyes were like stars, and he was bold and straightforward. His aura was imposing, and he had the bearing of a general. Beside the man was a little girl in a fiery red dress. She was about 8 or 9 years old, and her bright eyes stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 777. There seemed to be 2 balls of fire in her eyes, but when one looked again, the 2 balls of fire in her eyes had disappeared. One had to admit that this young lady gave off a breathtaking vibe. Even Yun Luofeng couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. Boom! Yun Luofeng raised his hand and smashed Mu Qingran's body away. This smack almost took his life. Cough, cough. Mu Qingran coughed dryly and spat out a mouthful of blood. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked up at Yi Shima, who was walking over. "You're from the Yi family, Yi Shima? Why was Yi Shima here? Moreover, what did he mean by that? It seemed like he was unhappy that he was using Yi Qi's name to act like a tyrant." "Mu family." Yi Shima turned to look at Mu Qingran and raised his brows. "From what I know, the young master of the Mu family is gravely ill and needs the meat of a gold-seeking rat at the venerable level to save him. For this, the Mu family is willing to plunder medicinal ingredients from all over the world just so that the gold-seeking rat can break through." Mu Qingran was shocked. He clearly didn't expect Yi Shima to know about this. Yi Shima curled his lips nonchalantly when he saw the shock in Mu Qingran's eyes. "Unfortunately, even if you plunder all the medicinal ingredients in the world, you can't make a gold-seeking rat break through to the venerable level. So, Why are you making things difficult for others for those medicinal ingredients? Mu Qingran's expression darkened. Even if there's only a sliver of hope, I have to try. Gold-seeking rat? When Yun Luofeng heard those words, the rats in the divine grimoire also heard them. The Rat Queen's voice was clearly anxious. Master, I know that my request might be too rude, but all the gold-seeking rats are my subjects. Over the years, countless gold-seeking rats have gone missing from the underground castle. I can also confirm that the gold-seeking rat is my subordinate. Please save him for us, Master. The other gold-seeking rats couldn't speak the human language. Even so, Yun Luofeng could still sense their pleas through their soul contract. The rats had always been a united race. Now that one of their kind had been captured and wanted to eat him, how could they just ignore it? It was precisely because of their unity that they had been able to survive in the forest of no return all these years. All right. Yun Luofeng agreed without any hesitation. She wasn't annoyed by her subordinate's request. On the contrary, she was very pleased. Therefore, she would not stifle their request. Little Shima, why are you wasting your breath on this kind of person? Fire was very dissatisfied with Yi Shima talking to Mu Qingran. She frowned her cute eyebrows and glanced at Mu Qingran sinisterly. Just kill this kind of person. Why waste your breath? To Fire, he would often start a massacre if he did not agree with it. She did not care whether the other party's crime was light or heavy. She only knew that those who provoked her deserved to die. However, Fire had forgotten that Mu Qingran did not even say a single word to her, so how could he provoke her? At most, he only provoked Yun Luofeng. The corner of Yi Shima's mouth twitched. He patted Fire's shoulder earnestly and said, Fire, don't always kill people. It's not good to see blood. We should be reasonable. That's right, they should be reasonable. Chapter 778. Mu Qingran nodded in agreement. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Shima's fist suddenly arrived. With a boom, his body was sent flying again, smashing down from the railing. Did you see that? Yi Shima was still educating Fire. Fists are reason. You have to understand next time. Mu Qingran, who had fallen downstairs, spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard Yi Shima's words. He had really thought that Yi Shima was a reasonable person. In the end, this guy was too sinister, too shameless. He really was Jun Fengling's adopted son. His personality was exactly the same as hers. In the Wuwei continent, many people did not know about the Yi family's situation. However, since Mu Qingran had dealings with Yi Qi, how could he not know that Yi Jingxin's wife was Jun Fengling? It was said that Jun Fengling was a lowly woman who had bewitched the Yi family's young master, Yi Shima. She did not have any children and had only adopted a son. And her adopted daughter, Yi Qi, was adopted by Yi Jingxin. Jun Fengling was shameless. She would often start a fight at the slightest disagreement. Not only that, she was also jealous because a certain family had once wanted to give their daughter to Yi Shima as a concubine. In the end, this jealous woman had single-handedly charged to the door. Even though all the experts of that family had been mobilized, they had not been able to subdue her. What good could an adopted son that she had taken a liking to and adopted be? Mu Qingran clutched his chest and crawled up from the ground. However, at that moment, countless gold-seeking mice suddenly descended from the sky. They were so densely packed that it made one's hair stand on end. What is this? Mu Qingran almost fainted from fright. Seeing that the gold-seeking mice had climbed onto his body, he hurriedly waved his hand and shouted, "Go away!" The people from the Mu family were not any better. Those gold-seeking mice were especially cunning. They could not be shaken off or crushed, but they liked to burrow into his clothes. Feeling the soft and scholarly feeling of his clothes, everyone felt goosebumps all over their bodies. Yi Shima was also stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng in surprise. He really did not understand where these gold-seeking mice had come from. Yun Luofeng ignored his gaze and walked downstairs. With every step she took, Mu Qingran's pupils constricted. She said through clenched teeth, "These gold-seeking rats are yours?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly, looking down at Mu Qingran from above. "Where is the Mu family's gold-seeking rat? What do you want?" Mu Qingran's pupils constricted. "I'm telling you, I definitely won't hand over these gold-seeking rats. Besides, you already have so many gold-seeking mice, so one more won't make much of a difference. I won't ask a third time. Where is the gold-seeking rat? The girl's eyes were domineering as she stared coldly at Mu Qingran. Gold-seeking rat is my son's prescription. I can't give it to you. Mu Qingran gritted her teeth. He could admit defeat, he could give in, but he would never hand over the gold-seeking rat. What does your son's illness have to do with the gold-seeking rat? But you want to use the gold-seeking rat's life to exchange for your son's? Mu Qingran snorted. How can a rat's life compare to a human's? Beasts will always be beasts, but humans will always be humans. The lives of beasts are cheap, but human lives are precious. Don't tell me you don't understand this logic? Even among the gold-seeking mice, he still stubbornly insisted on his own opinion. Moreover, he didn't think that these gold-seeking mice could cause him any harm. At most, they would only disgust him. Chapter 779. Mu Qingran's words had clearly infuriated the crowd. The rats' eyes widened, as if they wanted to eat Mu Qingran alive. Milk Tea passed through the swarm of rats and placed her paws on her waist. She held her head high as she walked toward Mu Qingran and stepped on his toes. You said that our lives are worthless? Then let me tell you, in our eyes, the lives of everyone in the Mu family added together are worth less than one of ours. After saying these words, Milk Tea's gaze drifted towards Meng Meng, who was behind her. She winked at Meng Meng as if she was asking for credit. Meng Meng smiled cutely. That smile was like the sun, instantly warming Milk Tea's heart, causing his little heart to thump wildly. I'll give you a chance. Release my clansmen. Otherwise, I'll eat you alive and not even let you leave with a whole corpse. In order to get Meng Meng's smile, Milk Tea turned around and stepped harder on Mu Qingran's toes. Mu Qingran's face was like a ghost's. His face went from ashen to pale, and his pupils dilated. It spoke? This gold-seeking rat actually spoke? Could it be? It was a venerable? If Yun Xiao hadn't been powerful enough and Yi Shima hadn't suddenly appeared, perhaps Mu Qingran would have gone mad with excitement after encountering a venerable gold-seeking rat. But now, there was only despair in his heart. Hand over my clansmen. Milk Tea said arrogantly. Squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak. The other gold-seeking rats squeaked and glared angrily at the group from the Mu family. If they dared to disobey, they might just swarm them and eat them all. Mu Qingran became dispirited. He no longer looked as aggressive as when he charged into the inn, nor did he look as proud and high-spirited as before. His entire being exuded a dejected aura. I'll take you to the Mu family. Mu Qingran laughed bitterly. His lightly shut eyes were filled with despair. Master, Milk Tea turned to Yun Luofeng and said, I'll take care of this. I'll bring the Mu family back. Just wait here for us. Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. If there's anything, remember to call me through spiritual transmission. Milk Tea's words were also the Rat Queen's thoughts. She was already very grateful that Yun Luofeng had released them and allowed them to rescue their own kind. Moreover, this was the Rat Clan's matter. If they could complete it themselves, they wouldn't need Yun Luofeng's help. Thank you. The Rat Queen looked at Yun Luofeng gratefully and said. At first, Mu Qingran's heart had been filled with hope when he heard Milk Tea's words. As long as those two didn't follow him, he had plenty of ways to deal with the gold-seeking rats. He might even be able to make this gold-seeking rat, which was a venerable spiritualist, into his son's medicine. However, as soon as the Rat Empress opened her mouth, his plan was instantly ruined. His face was ashen. What did it mean to have two gold-seeking mice that were venerable spiritualists? Even the Mu family only had two venerable spiritualists. Most importantly, he dared not guarantee that there would be venerable spiritualists among the rats. No matter how much he loved his son, he was not willing to risk the entire Mu family. Let's go. After Milk Tea gave the order, she eagerly ran to Meng Meng's side and said, Meng Meng, don't worry, I will definitely rescue your clansmen. Chapter 780. Bo. Meng Meng moved closer to Milk Tea and kissed it on the cheek. At that moment, Milk Tea felt as if 100 flowers were blooming around her, and she felt dizzy. It turned out that being kissed by the woman you loved was such a wonderful feeling. No wonder his master always liked to kiss Yun Xiao. Your pet is really interesting. The corner of Yi Shima's mouth twitched as he turned to Yun Luofeng and said. What shocked him even more was that she actually had the ability to make the gold-seeking mouse break through to the venerable realm. This was not something that could be done by consuming medicinal herbs. Someone from the Yi family? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and smiled. Ever since she came to the Wuhui continent, she had heard of the Yi family countless times. However, she did not know how powerful the Yi family was. When Yi Shima heard this, he rubbed his nose and said, I'm just someone who was expelled from the Yi family. Since Yi Jingchen had been kicked out of the Yi family, he and Yi Qi were no longer considered members of the Yi family. However, Yi Shima laughed heartily. If you encounter any trouble in the Wuhui continent, I can still help you solve it. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Yun Luofeng said slowly. Yi Shima laughed out loud. How is this unaccountably solicitous? It's my fortune to be able to protect the beauty. I wonder if the beauty can be protected by me? Inside the divine grimoire, little Mo, who was weeding the medicinal field, was stunned when he heard the voice coming from outside the space. This man actually teased his master in front of Yun Xiao? He was too bold. Sure enough, when Yi Shima said this, a cold aura enveloped the room, causing the entire room to be filled with a creepy aura. It's enough for me to protect my wife myself. Yun Xiao had unknowingly walked in front of Yun Luofeng and fiercely pulled her into his embrace, as if he was declaring his ownership. Yun Luofeng smiled and allowed Yun Xiao to do as she pleased. This man always behaved like a loyal dog in front of her. Only when facing others would he display his domineering aura to the fullest. Idiot. Fire glanced at Yi Shima. You don't even know how to strike up a conversation. Yi Shima looked embarrassed. It's all because of you. Fire understood what Yi Shima meant by that. The person he was looking for was this woman. He just wanted to find an excuse to get close to her. But what kind of excuse did he come up with? In the eyes of others, they would even think of him as a lecherous, shameless, and vulgar lecher. Watch me. Fire glanced at Yi Shima and slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng. An innocent smile blossomed on her face. Elder sister, my brother and I are lost. Can you take us in? If she had a tail behind her, she would definitely be able to see Fire wagging its tail and begging for mercy. If it wasn't for the few words that Fire had said to expose her true nature, perhaps Yun Luofeng would have thought that she was just an innocent little girl. Compared to Yun Luofeng, Yi Shima was already dumbfounded. This little girl wagging her tail and begging for pity, was she really that tyrannical and willful Fire? Little Mo, is this the girl you sensed earlier? Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and asked. Little Mo's voice came from within his soul. That's right, it's her. Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened slightly. Since she had already come knocking on her door, it meant that this little girl had sensed that the divine grimoire of medicine was in her body. However, she didn't understand why this little girl didn't go straight to the point and reveal her origins. Chapter 781. You are from the Yi family. Do you still need me to take you in? Yun Luofeng came back to his senses and asked with a smile that was not a smile. Fire was startled. He suddenly pushed Yi Shima to the side and said pitifully, I don't know him, we are not on the same path. Sister, I'm lost, please take me in. Yi Shima was completely dumbfounded. He had been abandoned just like that? He had brought her to find the person she was looking for, but in the end, this girl had turned her back on him on the spot, and even said that she didn't know him? Yi Shima was very sad. He clutched his chest and pretended to be in pain as he looked at Fire. Fire, you're too heartless, I've been hurt so deeply by you. Fire curled his lips. Don't randomly recognize people, I don't even know you, hurry back to your Yi city, don't come and ruin Big Sister's plan to take me in. Yi Shima pouted, feeling wronged. Fire. Fire turned her head and no longer looked at Yi Shima. She blinked her bright eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng. Elder sister, I really don't know this guy. My family is no longer here, leaving me alone to wander around. If you don't take me in, I'll have nowhere to go. I might starve to death on the streets. Can you bear to do that? Facing Fire's pitiful eyes, the smile on Yun Luofeng's face deepened as he softly said those two words. This little girl had such a deep connection with the divine grimoire space. How could she be in such dire straits? Therefore, Yun Luofeng's words were merciless. Also, didn't you just say that he's your brother? Fire blinked his eyes. That's because he lied to me. That's right, he's a liar. He saw that I was cute and tricked me into being his sister. Actually, I have nothing to do with him. Yi Shima's heart was even more hurt. He looked at Fire with a wronged expression. His eyes were filled with tears, as if they were filled with tears. He had good intentions, but in the end, this girl actually called him a liar? In order to strike up a conversation, she was indeed willing to do anything. She could even find such a lame reason. You come with me. Yun Luofeng grabbed Fire's small hand and pulled her into the room. Yi Shima wanted to follow her in. However, when he reached the door slammed against him and almost broke his nose. This girl is the person Fire is looking for, so Fire won't be in any danger. After Yi Shima thought it through, he stretched and said, "In that case, I'll go back to my room to rest first. I won't care about them." Although Fire was only 8 or 9 years old, he was actually very mature and would not suffer any losses. Furthermore, he did not think that Yun Luofeng would harm Fire. Even he himself didn't understand. It was clearly the first time they met, but he had a good impression of these two people. Even though Yun Xiao had initially used her aura to scare him, he still hadn't gotten angry. Not long after, Yi Shima would understand that the reason why he had feelings for them was because it was fated. Inside the room, Fire timidly looked at Yun Xiao, who was hugging Yun Luofeng. For some reason, she felt a little afraid of Yun Xiao. Perhaps it was because this man's aura was too strong, so strong that she didn't dare to look at him directly. Yun Luofeng sat on Yun Xiao's lap and raised his eyebrows as he looked at the fire in the room. We don't need to beat around the bush. Tell me, is your purpose for coming here to find me? Fire was startled. She knew that her lie had been seen through, so she stopped acting cute. Instead, she cleared her throat and asked, "You know?" Chapter 782. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked, "What do you think?" Fire became silent. After a long while, she raised her head and looked at Yun Luofeng. "Actually, I don't know much about the specifics. I only know that I am waiting for the person who possesses the divine grimoire's space and follow her." After saying this, she raised her head and stared straight at Yun Luofeng. "And you are the one I'm waiting for. Give me a reason to keep you." Yun Luofeng lazily looked at Yun Zhao's chest, his evil eyes looking at Fire, who was standing in front of him. "For example, what do you know?" Fire held his cheek in his hand and thought for a moment, then said, "I know how to kill. And I can also set fire." Killing? Arson? This could indeed be considered a skill. All right, you can stay. The corner of Yun Luofeng's mouth curled up. "However, even if you have an inextricable relationship with the medical temple, I still can't completely trust you unless—" She paused, the smile on her face deepening. "Unless you make a contract with me." As soon as the word contract fell, Fire's body suddenly trembled. He raised his head in shock and looked at Yun Luofeng without blinking. "You actually know." She actually knew her identity. "I'll give you 2 choices. Leave the contract behind, or don't make a contract with me. Do you know?" Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with evil intent as he said without changing his expression. Fire took a small breath and said, "All right, I'll make a contract with you." What? In that instant, a burst of fiery red light emerged from Fire's body, and that fiery red light enveloped Yun Luofeng's body. She passed through the layers of red light and walked in front of Yun Luofeng, slowly closing her eyes. At the same time, Yun Luofeng had already forced out a drop of blood from his fingertip and entered Fire's forehead. In that instant, Fire's body trembled slightly, but quickly regained its calmness. The moment the contract was completed, Fire's body disappeared into thin air, and the entire room returned to its previous tranquility. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xiao and said, "I know you have many questions. If you want to ask, I can answer them." Yun Zhao's arm reached out from behind and wrapped around Yun Luofeng's waist. Her chin gently rubbed against the young girl's head as her raspy voice rang out. "I won't ask." He trusted her, so he would not question her about anything. This kind of trust was innate. Yun Luofeng's heart warmed. This man always believed in her. With this, what other regrets did she have in this life? You're tired. Go rest first. Yun Shao picked up Yun Luofeng's body and carried him to the large bed, divine grimoire space. Under the azure sky, Fire and Xiao Mo were staring at each other, neither of them willing to give in. Yun Luofeng had just entered the space when he saw the surging atmosphere between the two of them. The two of them had been glaring at each other, but when they saw Yun Luofeng, they didn't want to fall behind and rushed over. Master, this guy wants to take over my position the moment he arrives. Xiao Mo pointed at Fire and said angrily, doesn't she know what it means to come first? Fire said with disdain, I was wondering why Master knew my purpose. So it turns out that this medical god grimoire has actually given birth to a spirit body after so many years. Chapter 783. Little Imo was so angry that her small face was flushed red as she glared at Fire angrily. Fire, Yun Luofeng looked at the two people who were fighting each other, then turned his gaze to Fire and asked, You still haven't told me where you came from. Fire's expression was somewhat desolate. I was originally a spirit beast that lived in this divine grimoire space, but one day, I was thrown out by this divine grimoire space. He said that he was going to find his host, and told me to wait here for him to bring his host back. At that time, because I was young and didn't understand the rules of survival between humans, I was chased by a group of experts who wanted to force me into a contract. I was injured by them and found a place to hide and recuperate. While I was recuperating, I met a human and took him in as my disciple. Later, in order to make it convenient for me to hide there and recuperate, my disciple built a house at the place where I lived. Today, that place is the famous Yi family. Yi family? Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin with his finger. In other words, the ancestor of the Yi family was your disciple? Fire nodded. The Yi family has a forbidden area. It is said that anyone who enters will die. That place was just a place that the ancestors of the Yi family helped me build to recuperate. I stayed there for 1,000 years, and then Yi Jingchen accidentally broke into the forbidden area, so I left with him. In fact, the reason why the forbidden area was called a forbidden area was because there were other dangers besides her existence. Even those traps were countless, and their purpose was to prevent others from finding trouble with her. However, when the ancestors of the Yi family made these traps, they had already told Fire all the ways to break them. Therefore, after Yi Jingchen accidentally stepped into the forbidden area, Fire saved him. The premise was that he had to take her away from this place, to find the person she was looking for. As for why Fire did not leave on her own, it was because she was afraid that she would be hunted down by a group of experts like before, and would even do anything to obtain it. Therefore she, who was inexperienced, did not dare to leave the forbidden area alone. Oh right. Yun Luofeng seemed to have thought of something and asked, You mean the divine grimoire space kicked you out of this place? Could it be that the medical temple has its own consciousness? Fire nodded. Master, I feel that the current divine grimoire space is different from the one I am familiar with. It seems that its consciousness has disappeared. Unfortunately, she had left the divine grimoire for too long, so she did not know what had happened. Yun Luofeng was not as discouraged as Fire, because she felt that she was getting closer and closer to the secret of the divine medical grimoire. Fire, what is your original body? Yun Luofeng slightly narrowed his eyes. She actually couldn't tell what Fire's original body was? Hearing this, Fire's body trembled, and not long after, a fiery red fox lay on the ground. This fox had 8 tails that were as fluffy as cotton. Its eyes had also turned from black to a fiery red, dazzling to the extreme. Fire Spirit Fox? This little girl was actually the legendary 9-tailed fire spiritual fox? But why did the 9-tailed fire spiritual fox only have 8 tails? Fire, where's your other tail? Fire's eyes dimmed for a moment. Back then, when I was being chased by those strong warriors, I died once and only lost a tail. She stroked her fluffy tail, her expression calm. Chapter 784. Fire stood up straight. Her body was shrouded in a layer of flames, and in a moment, she turned back into the little girl that was carved from jade. Hearing this, Xiao Mo did not argue with her like before. His eyes were filled with sympathy. Fire, From now on, you will follow Master. Master will not let you be bullied by others." Fire was moved in his heart. "Thank you." Yun Luofeng smiled slightly. To her, it was naturally for the best if her two subordinates could get along well. "This tree has already grown so big?" Yun Luofeng's eyes swept across the area, and when he saw the tree that he had plucked and planted, his eyes were filled with surprise. The seed could no longer be called a seed, but a small tree. Even though this small tree was still very young, it could not change the fact that it had become a tree. It had taken a lot of medicinal ingredients to raise the tree to such a large size. Not to mention the betrothal gift that Yun Shao had given her, even the medicinal ingredients that she had obtained from the Rat Clan had almost all been used up. It seemed that she had to think of a way to get more medicinal ingredients. Otherwise, forget about this small tree, she wouldn't even be able to afford to raise those gold-seeking mice. Just as Yun Luofeng was deep in thought, a gust of wind suddenly blew from the small tree, and the wind flew straight towards the fire. Fire's face was originally filled with astonishment. He did not know why Yun Luofeng valued this small tree so much, but in the next moment, an attractive force came from the small tree, as if there were countless hands pulling her towards the small tree. "Master, save me!" Fire shouted in panic and anxiously grabbed onto Yun Luofeng's hand. In the strong wind, her red dress fluttered, revealing her snow-white thighs. Yun Luofeng tightly held onto Fire's arm, an evil light flashed past his eyes, and he sternly shouted, "I have used so many medicinal ingredients to feed you, is it not enough? Now you want to eat fire? If you don't stop, I don't mind burning you." Sure enough, after hearing this, the wind suddenly disappeared. The small tree swayed its leaves as if urging Yun Luofeng to feed it. Fire was so scared that he cried, "Master, what kind of monster is this? Why does it want to eat me?" She had only heard of spirit beasts eating trees, but she had never seen a tree eating spirit beasts. What's more, this tree was actually fed with medicinal herbs. What kind of monster was it? "It's fine, it won't eat you. It just wants to eat the spirit energy and life force in your body." Yun Luofeng patted Fire's shoulder and comforted her. But it was clear that her consolation had once again scared the fire. "Is there a difference? Without spiritual energy, I'm just a useless fox. If my life force is gone, won't I die?" Although Fire had lived for 1,000 years, she had come into contact with very few people, so her temperament was inevitably a little like a child's. She grabbed Yun Luofeng's arm, feeling wronged, and hid her body behind her. "Little Mo, pick the last few herbs in the space. Tomorrow I will think of a way to get more herbs." Yun Luofeng felt a lot of pressure. Not only did he have to raise the entire Rat Clan, but he also had to raise a small tree that could eat as much as all the gold-seeking rats. Fortunately, the small tree needed to rest for 10 days to half a month after it was full, so she had enough time to search for medicinal herbs. The small tree seemed to understand Yun Luofeng's words, and its leaves swayed happily, like a puppy that had gotten its food. "Master, I'll go out with you." Fire looked at the small tree vigilantly, and tightly held onto Yun Luofeng's arm. "I don't want to stay in this place." Chapter 785. "I've already warned it. It won't have any more ideas about you." "I don't care." Fire curled her lips. "If you want me to stay with it, then I won't have a good life. I need to be on guard against its sneak attacks at all times. In that case, it would be safer to stay with Master." When Yun Luofeng saw Fire's pitiful look, his heart softened and he agreed. "I can let you follow me, but you can't call me Master, and you can't expose your identity as a spiritual beast." On the continent, Master was what spiritual beasts called their contractors. For example, Milk Tea and the other rats all called Yun Luofeng their master. The people in the army called her young mistress or master. The difference in one word meant the difference between heaven and earth. If others knew that she had a young spiritual beast in her hands, she would never be able to live in peace in the future. Everyone knew that spiritual beasts were divided into adulthood and childhood. For example, Fire, who always looked like an 8 or 9-year-old spiritual beast, meant that she had transformed into a human during her childhood. Youth transformation. This proved that this spiritual beast was extremely talented. It was no wonder that so many people wanted to capture Fire back then. For the sake of his own safety, he could not let Fire's identity leak out. I understand. Fire blinked his eyes and said obediently. If Yi Shima saw this scene, his jaw would definitely drop. When did this willful little girl become so obedient? Perhaps she was only willing to obey in front of Yun Luofeng. In the inn. In the simple and elegant room, Yi Shima was just about to sleep when he heard the door being kicked open with a bang. He thought that some enemy had come to seek revenge. He was so shocked that he jumped up and instantly pulled out the sword beside the bed. However, when he looked over, he saw Fire walking in with a calm expression. Fire, Yi Shima's heart was finally at ease. How many times have I told you, the door is for opening, not kicking? Fire curled his lips. I want to sleep, you go and make a bed on the floor. The corner of Yi Shima's mouth twitched. Fire, I think it's better if we get 2 rooms. Fire stopped in his tracks. He ignored Yi Shima and crawled into his blanket. Yi Shima wanted to say something, but he saw that the little girl had already closed her eyes, so he could only sigh helplessly. He took a blanket and made a bed on the ground. When his voice gradually rose, Fire, who originally had his eyes closed, finally opened them and tightly held onto the sheet in his hands. She was afraid. It was because he was afraid that he didn't dare to come to Qin City alone. It was also because of fear that she slept in the same room with Yi Shima. Whenever she thought of how she was humiliated by those people, her fear would spread again. Even if Yi Shima wasn't as powerful as her, she still felt that it would be safer to have one more person. Fire released her tail. She gently caressed the fluffy fox tail, and then placed her finger on the broken tail. A look of sadness flashed through her lowered eyes. She lied to Yun Luofeng. Although a 9-tailed fox's tail represented a life. However, her fox tail did not break because she lost her life. Instead, it was being chopped off bit by those humans. That's right, it was a little. They didn't cut off its tail all at once. They only cut off a little bit every day from top to bottom, until the entire tail was cut off. Even so, she gritted her teeth and endured it. She would rather die than submit to those humans. Chapter 786. Fortunately, I've finally found the person with the divine book of medicine. Fire put down his tail and murmured softly. After finding the person with the divine book of medicine, she would no longer be bullied by others. That was why she did not dare to step into the world for so many years. The next day. Early morning. As soon as Yun Luofeng opened the door, she saw Yi Shima and Fire standing at the door. She raised her eyebrows slightly and asked, "It's time to go?" Yi Shima coughed dryly. "By the way, we can be considered to know each other now, but I still don't know your names." Yun Luofeng frowned. As for Yi Shima, other than knowing that she was from the Yi family, she did not know anything else. Therefore, after a moment of silence, she said, "Feng Luo Yun." After Feng Luo Yun, it was Yun Luofeng. Fire blinked and looked at Yun Luofeng with a puzzled gaze. Obviously, he did not understand why she had made up a fake name. However, she did not see through Yun Luofeng and stood quietly at the side. "What about this young master?" Yi Shima turned to Yun Xiao and asked. "Xiao Yun." Yun Xiao's expression was cold and expressionless. After hearing these 2 words, Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly. Because he had read the name backwards, did he also follow suit? Yi Shima laughed and turned his gaze to Yun Luofeng again. He raised his hand and was about to pat her shoulder. However, before his hand could land, Yun Xiao had already pulled Yun Luofeng into his arms and avoided his hand. Yi Shima touched his nose awkwardly and said, "You too, since we were able to meet, it can be considered a kind of fate. My name is Yi Shima. If you don't mind, you can call me Big Brother Yi." Yun Luofeng smiled. "Then I will respectfully accept, Big Brother Yi." Yi Shima did not give Yun Luofeng a bad feeling. Instead, his straightforward and generous aura made her feel very comfortable. However, she had always been cautious. In this dangerous continent, she was not willing to reveal her name. Yun Xiao still had a cold look on her face and ignored Yi Shima's words. It was already extremely difficult for him to say 2 words, let alone call Yi Shima Big Brother? Apart from Yun Luofeng, no one could make him have an extra expression. "Ha!" Yi Shima laughed out loud. "Sister Feng, When we reach Kargalik, I'll be the host. I'll bring you guys to eat, drink and have fun. Fire, let's go. Little Shimo, aren't you looking for the person you're looking for? Fire frowned and asked. Yi Shima slapped himself on the forehead. How could I forget about this? It's just that foster father wants me to look for someone, but I really don't know where to look. It would be fine if there was a portrait, but there's nothing here. You are looking for someone? Yun Luofeng asked curiously. Yi Shimo nodded. I'm looking for my brother, but I've never seen him before, so I can't find him. Let's not talk about this for now. Sister Feng, young Master Xiao, I'll bring you to Kargalik as guests. As for the matter of finding them, I'll send someone to investigate. Yi Shima was very distressed. Looking for someone in the limitless continent was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Unless the other party came to him on his own? But was that even possible? He did not think that his luck was that good. Chapter 787. Kargalik. It was not far from Qin City. It only took half a day's journey to get there. At this moment, in a private room of an elegant restaurant in Kargalik, Yi Chi had her head lowered. She did not look too good and was biting her chopsticks angrily. Sitting in front of her was a woman in her 20s. She was extremely beautiful and delicate, which made it easy for others to want to protect her. Chi, the woman pursed her lips slightly and said in a weak voice, Are you still angry at your brother? Yi Chi sighed and put down her chopsticks. I don't know why he hates me so much. Ever since I was young, I've always wanted to follow behind him and I've never done anything that crossed the line. Therefore, I don't understand why he hates me so much. She looked very depressed. She did not even have any desire to eat the delicacies on the table. Tell me, what should I do to make Big Brother not hate me so much? Yi Chi bit her lips and looked at Shuero pitifully. Shuero was about to speak when she suddenly looked out of the window and said in surprise, Isn't that Mr. Yi? Yi Chi instantly stood up from her seat. Her originally gloomy face became as bright as a spring flower and there was a charming smile on her face. Big Brother is back? Then, Yi Chi quickly rushed out of the private room. Her speed was so fast that it left everyone speechless. In the lobby of the restaurant, Yi Shima was introducing the customs of Kargalik to Yun Luofeng and the others while praising the restaurant. However, at this moment, a delicate figure quickly flew down from upstairs and only stopped when she was in front of him. Yi Chi? Yi Shima was stunned. He frowned and looked at the woman who had come down from upstairs. Then he looked at Shuero, who was with her. His already gloomy face became even uglier. Why you guys here? The man's questioning tone stunned Yi Chi. And I were eating here. I didn't expect you guys to be here too. Yi Chi looked around and saw Fire standing next to Yi Shima. She immediately became angry. Big Brother, are you still with this little girl? Yi Chi, don't be rude. Yi Shima's expression turned serious as he shouted, These are all my friends. Her name is Fire, and the other two are Sister Feng and young Master Xiao. During this period of time, they will be living in the Yi residence. If you are rude to them, don't blame me for not acknowledging you as my sister. Yi Chi didn't expect Yi Shima to scold her for a few outsiders. Her eyes reddened and she felt wronged. Compared to feeling wronged, there was more anger. Chi, Shuero hurriedly tugged at Yi Chi's sleeve and reminded her softly, Since Master Yi is back, don't make him angry anymore. After saying this, she slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao and spoke gently. Miss Feng, young Master Xiao, Chi has been spoiled rotten. That's why she's a little rude. I hope that the two of you will not take it to heart. Although she was speaking up for Yi Chi, her words had already revealed that Yi Chi had a bad temper and was spoiled. Not to mention Yun Luofeng, even Yi Shima, who had a one-track mind, could tell this. Only Yi Chi did not understand the underlying meaning. You don't have to defend me. I don't think I did anything wrong. Chapter 788. Yi Chi, shut up. Yi Shima glared at her and said coldly, Do you know why I don't like you? I didn't know why I was like this before, but I understand now. You're too stupid. Yi Chi froze on the spot as if she had been struck by lightning. I like smart women, not stupid women like you. Yi Shima had a good temper outside, but he couldn't control himself every time he was with Yi Chi. Chi, Shui Rower tugged at Yi Chi, you should apologize. They are your brother's friends. You can't be rude in front of them. To show her good manners, Shui Rower faced Yun Luofeng and the rest again. Chi really didn't do it on purpose. Can you guys forgive her? As she said this, she glanced at Yun Xiao from time to time. Initially, she thought that Yi Shima was the most handsome man in the world. However, she didn't expect that there would be such a handsome man. If Yi Chi and Yi Shima's relationship returned to normal, perhaps she could use Yi Chi to get close to this man. Shui Rower blushed as she thought about it and rubbed her handkerchief in embarrassment. Boom! Just as she was fantasizing about the future, all of a sudden, the man's aura surged out, incomparably cold. Before she could react, she felt a force ruthlessly striking her chest. Rower! Yi Chi hurried to Shui Rower and asked anxiously, are you all right? Big brother, how could your guest hit my friend? After checking Shui Rower's body, Yi Chi raised her head and questioned her. Yi Shima looked at Yun Xiao in confusion. Although he didn't like Shui Rower, he wouldn't hit her for no reason. Therefore, he couldn't understand why Yun Xiao would suddenly hit her. Yun Xiao said coldly, she blushed just now. Yi Shima was stunned. Blushed? What did Shui Rower blush have to do with you? Yun Xiao continued, she blushed when she looked at me. Yi Shima wasn't someone who didn't understand. After hearing Yun Xiao's words, he immediately understood what had happened. If you see a man blush, it proves that you have feelings for this man. However, just as Yi Shima was about to speak, Yun Xiao's deep voice was heard again. It's fine that she's blushing, but she's blushing in front of me. I find her an eyesore. In other words, if Shui Rower had only blushed secretly, he might not have bothered with her. However, this woman had run in front of him and was an eyesore. How could he not make a move? Shui Rower climbed up from the ground and bit her lips. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. Big brother Yi, this is my fault. I was born to be infatuated and like to look at good-looking men. This young master is so good-looking that I couldn't help but look at him a few more times, but I don't have any other thoughts about him. Her expression was very innocent, as if she had been wronged. At this time, the other guests also put down the chopsticks in their hands and pointed at the change in the hall. Big brother, Yi Chi said angrily, Rower has already said that she doesn't have any feelings for him. Your friend hurt Rower, do you need to apologize? Yi Shima raised his eyebrows and said coldly, I don't care if she has feelings for young Master Xiao or not. It's a fact that she blushed. She's still a virgin, so isn't it too obscene for her to stare at a man she doesn't know? Moreover, young Master Xiao already has a wife. Even if Shui Rower has any improper thoughts, you must stop her. Chapter 789. He was naturally protective of his own people. Since Yun Luofeng had addressed him as Big Brother Yi, he would treat him like a younger sister. How could he allow others to cause trouble for him? Shui Rower's face turned even paler. Her frail body was extremely pitiful. Sister Feng, young Master Xiao, let's go. Yi Shima gave Shui Rower a warning look. When he retracted his gaze, he glanced at Yi Chi. Yi Chi, on account that you're my younger sister, I'll give you a piece of advice. You need to keep your eyes open when making friends. Otherwise, you'll still be counting money for someone else when you're being sold. Big brother. Yi Chi stomped her foot angrily. I won't allow you to say that to Rower. Unfortunately, Yi Shima did not even look at her. He walked straight to the private room on the second floor. Yi Chi wanted to chase after him to explain but was stopped by Shui Rower. She shook her head and said helplessly, Chi, you don't have to say anything else. Can't you tell? Big brother Yi has been bewitched. He won't listen to you at all. Yi Chi was stunned. She turned around and looked at Shui Rower. Rower, what do you mean? What do you mean by my big brother has been bewitched? Shui Rower smiled bitterly. Not only does he have a misunderstanding about you, but he also has a deeper misunderstanding about me. However, do you think he would have such a big misunderstanding if no one was around? At this point, Shui Rower paused. She lowered her gaze and hid the sinister look in her eyes. According to my understanding, the two ladies beside him must have said something that caused him to have a misunderstanding. Yi Qi frowned. Ro, what should I do to get rid of Big Brother's ill feelings towards me? It's simple. A cold look flashed across Shui Roer's eyes. When she raised her head, she regained her gentle demeanor. You just have to make them disappear. Disappear? That's impossible. At first, Shui Roer deliberately lowered her voice and said that sentence at a volume that only 2 people could hear. Who knew that Yi Qi would not be able to control herself and scream when she heard that? Shui Roer's expression immediately changed. She hurriedly whispered, Chi-Chi, lower your voice. I'm doing this for your own good. I just don't want to see Big Brother Yi misunderstand you. It's a pity that I'm not strong enough. Otherwise, even if I have to risk offending Big Brother Yi and the Yi clan, I'll kill those people so that you won't have to suffer any more misunderstandings. Her words were very sincere, and Yi Qi's face, which had changed drastically, gradually eased up, and her eyes showed that she was touched. Ro, I know that no matter what you do it for me. However, they are Big Brother's guests. If anything happens to them, Big Brother will never forgive me. I can't do this. Shui Roer sighed. It's my fault for not considering this point. Chi-Chi, you are more thoughtful. I won't be so lost in the future. Although she said that, Shui Roer was cursing Yi Qi's ancestors in her heart. This idiot actually didn't take the bait this time. He had thought that he could use this idiot to destroy that woman, but who would have thought that she was actually unwilling to do it? In that case, if she wanted to get that cold man, she would have to put in some effort. Roer, Yi Qi lowered her eyebrows and said dejectedly, Big Brother already hates me so much. I'm just trying to find a way to restore our relationship. I don't want it to worsen. Chapter 790. Chi-Chi, forget it, let's go. Foster father and foster mother should be back soon. Yi Qi raised her delicate eyebrows, and a smile once again appeared on her lovely face. In this life, apart from her eldest brother, the only people she respected were her godfather and mother. If not for them, she might have been lost. However, she heard that her godfather had gone out to look for her godmother's biological son. She wondered if they had found him after so many days. On the 2nd floor, in a luxurious private room, Yi Shimo returned the menu to the waiter and turned to face Yun Luo Feng and the rest. Younger sister Feng, I haven't asked you yet. Is there anything important that you're here for? Yun Luo Feng was stunned. Their goal was to find Yun Zhao's mother. Otherwise, they would not have come all the way to the Wuhui continent. We're looking for someone. After some thought, Yun Luo Feng revealed her goal. However, she did not tell Yi Shima who she was looking for. Yi Shima laughed heartily. What a coincidence that we both have someone we're looking for. Younger sister Feng, you can tell me who you're looking for. I can ask the Yi family for help. There's no need for that. Yun Luo Feng shook his head. By the way, is that your sister downstairs? It seems like you don't like her. Speaking of this, Yi Shima felt a headache coming on. He furrowed his handsome eyebrows and said, Actually, when Godfather first adopted her, my relationship with her wasn't so bad. Later on, I gradually realized that she was a little stupid. Perhaps it was because of this that I didn't like her very much. Look at her, what kind of friends do you think she has? First, she's the daughter of a bandit leader. That bandit leader even used her name to act like a tyrant. You can see what kind of person Shui Roer is now. Yi Shima's tone was getting more and more intense. If Yi Qi was here, Yun Luo Feng believed that he would not be able to control himself and give her a good beating. Compared to a stupid person like her, I prefer a smart woman like you, younger sister Feng. Yi Shima winked at Yun Luo Feng, and the smile on his face was very handsome. At this moment, a cold gaze was directed at him, making him feel as if there were needles on his back. He coughed dryly twice in discomfort. Just kidding, just kidding. God knows, at that moment, he really felt as if a knife was pressed against his neck. It was as if his head would fall to the ground in the next second. Idiot! Fire glanced at Yi Shima and said mockingly, You flirted with another man's woman in front of him. You should be thanking the heavens that he didn't kill you. The corner of Yi Shima's mouth twitched slightly. This little girl would feel uncomfortable if she didn't insult him for a day? Brother Yi, Yun Luo Feng thought for a moment, then asked, Are there any large-scale auctions in Kargalik? Auction? Yi Shima was stunned and shook his head. There are no auctions in Kargalik. Sister Feng, why are you asking about the purpose of the auction? Actually, it's not anything important. It's just that I have a few medicinal herbs with special uses and I plan to exchange them for ordinary medicinal herbs. That's why I'm asking about the auction. If the elixirs were to be auctioned at the auction and they could only be auctioned using medicinal herbs, not only would they have food for the gold-seeking mice, but they would also be able to provide nourishment for the small tree. Chapter 791. Of course, with Yun Luofeng's wealth, he could buy all the medicinal herbs in the medicine stores. However, the medicinal herbs in the medicine stores were usually too young. The value of the medicinal herbs grown from these herbs could not compare to those that were a few hundred years old. However, few people would sell medicinal herbs that were a few hundred years old. Even in a medicinal herb shop, there were only a few stocks of treasures. There aren't any large-scale auctions, but my godfather manages a medicine store in Kargalik. Not only can you buy and sell medicinal herbs in this store, but you can also exchange your medicinal herbs for medicinal herbs of the same value. Yun Luofeng's eyes lit up. That's a good idea. Brother Yi, bring me to the medicine store later. Yi Shima nodded and said, since my sister has a request as her big brother, I can't just ignore it. After dinner, I'll take you to the medicinal ingredients store immediately. The medicine store arrived at the trading center of Kargalik. This place was more luxurious than other places. There was an endless stream of people. However, they were all in a hurry and did not stop for any unimportant people. Sister Feng were here. Yi Shima stopped and turned to look at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. In front of him was a mighty and majestic trading firm. Above the trading firm, the words Yi Clan Medicine Shop were emitting a scalding light. Although Yi Jingchen had left the Yi family, his surname was Yi after all. Hence, the medicine store still used the words Yi family. Yun Luofeng raised his head slightly. Let's go in. Okay. Yi Shima smiled. Sister, you can take whatever you like from the medicine store. You don't have to be polite with me. Yun Luofeng smiled disapprovingly, but he still replied, okay. Although the Yi medicine store was huge, even the gold-seeking rats could not afford the medicinal herbs inside. What she wanted was more medicinal herbs. Sister, your man doesn't seem to like talking. Yi Shima glanced at Yun Xiao and asked. Yun Luofeng turned to look at Yun Xiao and curled his lips. He's a little shy. Shy? Yi Shima rolled his eyes. How could this guy be shy? His cold expression clearly showed that he did not care about anyone else. It was as if aside from Yun Luofeng, no one else was worthy of speaking to him. However, Yi Shima couldn't bring himself to be angry at this cold-faced man. Even he himself did not know why this was the case. Yi Shima saw Yi Qi with Shui Rower as soon as he stepped into the pharmacy. He frowned again. Why is it that I can see her no matter where I go? His words were vague, and no one knew if he was talking about Yi Qi or Shui Rower. Big brother? Yi Qi also saw Yi Shima at this time. She was stunned for a moment, then quickly walked forward. She bit her lips and said, Big brother, you're here? What are you doing here? Yi Shima's eyes turned cold as he asked coldly. Hearing his cold voice, Yi Qi's heart slightly trembled. She lowered her head and said, I recently defeated a doctor as her master. I promised her that I would give her a medicinal herb, so not everyone can take the herbs from the Yi family. Yi Shima stared at Shuero. She wants these herbs? Sure. Use medicinal herbs of equivalent value to exchange for it or buy it with money. Chapter 792. Big brother. Yi Qi widened her eyes in disbelief and said in a trembling voice, Ro Air is my friend. Don't you think you're being too heartless? Heartless? Yi Shima sneered when he heard that. I don't like Shui Ro Air because I don't want her to get my family's medicinal herbs. What can you do about it? His words were arrogant and willful. I don't like her. Even if I have to destroy these medicinal herbs, I won't let them fall into her hands. Chi. Shui Ro Air saw that the siblings were about to quarrel again. She quickly pulled Yi Qi back and said gently, Don't quarrel with Big Brother Yi. It's my fault. I shouldn't have asked you to give me medicinal herbs for free. So, I'll go back and sell off my assets. I might be able to gather enough money to buy one medicinal herb. Yi Chi was furious. To her, why did Big Brother have to pick on Ro Air, who was kind and weak? Big Brother, although you're in charge of the Yi family's business, it's Godfather's business. Ro Air doesn't have the right to get the medicinal herbs from the medicine shop, but do they? Yi Chi pointed at Yun Luofeng and the rest and said angrily, we don't know where these people are from. You want to give them the medicinal herbs from the business? How can you face Godfather and Godmother if you do that? Yi Shima's eyes were burning with anger. Since I'm in charge of the business, I can give them to whoever I want. You, on the other hand, can't even get a single medicinal herb without my permission. I'd like to see how you're going to give them to her. Yi Chi's face turned pale. She knew that Yi Shima was telling the truth. Godfather had handed over all the management of Kargalik to her. In Kargalik, he had no right to speak at all, even if she gave a medicinal herb from the business to Shui Ro Air. She did not have the right to do so. I'm sorry, Big Brother Yi. It's my fault. I shouldn't have asked Chi Chi to give me medicinal herbs. Shui Ro Air cried pitifully. I couldn't afford the medicinal herbs and it wasn't easy for me to become a disciple of a doctor. I wanted to thank my master with the medicinal herb. I didn't think that much at all. Don't blame Chi Chi, blame me. Many people had already stopped in the store. They looked at Yi Shima with blame in their eyes. Clearly, they were blaming him for bullying such a weak woman. The Yi family was very powerful. Yi Jingchen wasn't weak either. But the law does not punish the masses. That was why those people had the guts to point fingers at the unforeseen event before them. Big Brother Yi, you did well. At that moment, Yun Luofeng's voice rang in Yi Shima's ears. What did you say? Yi Chi's expression changed and she wanted to step forward, but before she could reach Yun Luofeng's side, she sensed the cold aura emanating from Yun Zhao's body. She was so shocked that she took a few steps back. Shui Er was also stunned as tears rolled down her cheeks once again. She softly said, I'm sorry. Her voice once again made Yi Chi angry. She looked at Yun Luofeng angrily. You're just my brother's guest. You can't interfere in our business. Aren't you going too far? Yi Chi gritted her teeth and said, that's right, she liked Yi Shi. But she wouldn't give up on her friends for love. Ro Air was already so pitiful, but Yun Luofeng had stabbed her in the back. How could she tolerate this? Chapter 793. Yun Luofeng glanced at her and said plainly, am I wrong? What did Brother Yi do wrong? Not only is he the manager of the business, but he is also a member of the Yi family. What's wrong with him not wanting his medicinal herbs to be taken by others? Yi Chi sneered and snorted. Didn't you ask Brother Yi to bring you here to get medicinal herbs for free? Don't make yourself sound so righteous. Who doesn't know what you're thinking? Yun Luofeng's body leaned against Yun Zhao's chest and he smiled lazily. I don't know where you heard the news that I want to obtain medicinal ingredients from the trading firm for free. Didn't Brother Yi tell you that I'm here to exchange my items for medicinal herbs of equivalent value? Yi Chi was stunned. She had thought that Yun Luofeng had the same background as Shui Ro Air. She didn't expect that Yun Luofeng also had medicinal herbs. In that case, there was nothing else she could say. Yi Shima looked at Yun Luofeng and suppressed the gratitude in his heart. He knew that Yun Luofeng wasn't the kind of person who liked to stand out. She had said all this for his sake. She was afraid that the world would misunderstand the Yi family business. This fella didn't say anything and kept all her thoughts in her heart. However, her every action warmed his heart. Shui Ro Air restrained the viciousness in her eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng pitifully. So Chi Chi has misunderstood. I apologize to you on her behalf. However, what kind of medicinal herbs do you want? Can we watch from the side? Didn't Yi Chi jump out because of her? In the end, she apologized to Yun Luofeng on Yi Chi's behalf. However, Yi Chi didn't understand what she was implying. She really thought that Shui Ro Air was doing it for her own good. Yun Luofeng looked at Yi Shima, who had an ugly expression on his face. With such a stupid sister, his days were not going to be easy. Looks like Miss Shui doesn't believe me. Yi Shima sneered and said mockingly, I, Yi Shima, have always been frank. Since I said that I wouldn't give medicinal herbs, I definitely won't. As a manager, I must be fair and just. Furthermore, what has the Yi family's matters got to do with you? What right do you have to watch? Shui Ro Air's face turned pale. I just... Enough. Yi Shima shouted, "You're not welcome in my territory. Leave now, or I'll get someone to throw you out." Big brother. Yi Qi, who was initially feeling guilty for misunderstanding Yun Luofeng, immediately exploded upon hearing this. Ro Air is my friend. I hope you won't always be rude to her. Since you don't want to see us, we'll beat you up immediately. After saying this, Yi Qi pulled Shui Roer out of the store. Outside the door, on the bustling street, Yi Qi stopped in her tracks. She could no longer hold back her tears. Qi, do you really think that woman has medicinal ingredients? Shui Roer's eyes flickered as she asked. Yi Qi was stunned. What do you mean? Shui Roer bit her lips. I feel that Brother Yi will definitely secretly give her the medicinal ingredients when you aren't paying attention. As for what she said just now, it's just her side of the story. I don't believe that she has medicinal herbs. Are you saying that they're lying to me? Big brother is still cooperating with her? Yi Qi was really easy to deceive. She was immediately fooled by this sentence. She was full of anger, and her whole person became very angry. She had felt guilty for a moment. She never thought that they were colluding to lie to her. They were doing it for the Yi family's medicinal ingredients. Chapter 794. Qi, I feel that with them here, your Yi residents will not have a peaceful day. Why don't you write a letter and call your parents back? Yi Qi had recovered from her initial anger. She shook her head and said, No, my adoptive father and mother have something to do outside. They can't come back. She knew what was important and what was not. It was not worth it to send her godparents back to Kargalik for such a small matter. Qi, do you know where your parents are? Shui Roer blinked and asked. Why are you asking this? Yi Qi furrowed her brows as she looked at Shui Roer. Shui Roer smiled gently. Aren't they looking for someone? I just want to ask for their exact location. Maybe my relatives are there and I can ask them for help. The innocent Yi Qi didn't suspect anything and told her the name of a place. However, she didn't notice a flash of coldness in Shui Roer's eyes. Yi Shima did not stay in the hall with Yun Luofeng for long. Instead, he went to the second floor. Apart from Yi Shima, only dignitaries could go to the second floor. However, he had brought Yun Luofeng and the others to the second floor. Young master, you're here? After seeing Yi Shima, the old man hurriedly greeted him and asked respectfully. Yi Shima nodded. Elder Qin, be careful in the future. Don't let Yi Qi bring those shady people here. Also, this is my new sister, and the other one is her man. He did not introduce Fire because he knew that Fire did not like to come into contact with people. Old Qin respectfully said, May I know what request the two of you have for coming here? There's no harm in saying it. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment. Let's go in and talk. All right. Old Qin made a welcoming gesture. Please. When she entered the room, Yun Xiao glanced at Fire with a cold gaze, then looked in the direction where Yi Qi and the other two had disappeared. Fire immediately understood what he meant. I still have something to do, so I won't be going in. Yun Luofeng was a little surprised, but she did not restrict Fire's freedom. She said softly, Come back and find me after you're done. Understood. Fire received the order and quickly rushed downstairs. In Kargalik, she actually had the guts to leave Yun Luofeng. After all, Kargalik was Yi Jingxin's territory. It made her feel safer. Yun Xiao retracted his gaze. His expression was as cold as before, as if nothing had happened at all. Sister, come to me, your big brother. I won't take your money. You can choose whatever herbs you like in this shop. You don't have to save money for me. Just treat it as a gift from me. Yi Shima laughed out loud. His voice was bold and clear, but old Qin could not help but twitch when he heard it. When did the young master become so generous? She could choose any medicinal herbs in the trading firm? One had to know that the young master was usually very stingy. Even Miss Yi Qi was reluctant to give her medicinal herbs. Therefore, old Qin was very curious about the background of these two people. You just promised me in the hall that you wouldn't give me any medicinal herbs. What? Are you going back on your words so quickly? Yun Luofeng asked playfully with a smile on his face. Yi Shima chuckled. When did I become a man who keeps his promise? Since I am in charge of the trading firm, I naturally have the right to gift it to others. You don't have to care about the others. As her big brother, I won't let my sister suffer any losses. Chapter 795. Yun Luofeng smiled. I'm afraid you won't have enough medicinal herbs even if you empty out your business. Yi Shima was stunned. Then how many medicinal herbs do you need? Yun Luofeng glanced at Yi Shima. Medicinal herbs older than 500 years, the more the better. Medicinal herbs older than 500 years, the more the better? Yi Shima's eyes widened in shock. His face was filled with astonishment. Sister, your request is indeed very difficult. My business has a total of 10 medicinal herbs older than 500 years and 3 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs. But you said the more the better. I don't know how many medicinal herbs you need. Yun Luofeng's fingers tapped the table lightly. A light flashed across her eyes. I have Foundation Elixir and Spirit Gathering Elixir. How many medicinal herbs can I exchange for these two? Foundation Elixir and Spirit Gathering Elixir? Yi Shima and Old Qin were stunned. They could guess the effects of these two medicinal herbs just from their names. If these are not enough, I still have some spiritual herbs. These spiritual herbs can heal injuries and allow patients to recover in a short period of time. As the saying went, fortune comes from danger. Yun Luofeng taking out these items now was indeed a risky move. But this was the only way she could obtain more precious medicinal herbs. Using a spiritual herb cultivated from an ordinary medicinal herb to exchange for medicinal herbs older than 500 years, then planting those 500-year-old medicinal herbs in the divine grimoire space, she could use a very short period of time to increase the strength of the gold-seeking mice clan. Once the gold-seeking mice's strength was increased, they would become her greatest help. Old Qin suppressed his surging emotions. He took a deep breath and asked, Miss, what is your request? 500-year-old medicinal herbs can be exchanged for one of the 3 items listed above. If you have a 1,000-year-old medicinal herb, you can exchange for 2 or more items. All right. Old Qin immediately stood up. Miss, place the spiritual liquid and medicinal herbs in our business. We will exchange for them for you. At the same time, we will keep your identity a secret. Once these items were made public, it would definitely cause a commotion. That was why he said this. Even if Old Qin did not say this, Yun Luofeng would have made this request. But, may I ask you, where did you get these items from? Yun Luofeng looked at Old Qin, who was standing in front of him, and smiled. Where do you think I can get these items? I'm just running errands for someone else. It's not convenient for that person to come out, so I'll come in his place. Yun Luofeng had put in a lot of thought into this sentence. She was still worried about Old Man Qin. Therefore, she had brought up a groundless person. In this way, if others wanted to kill her and steal her belongings, they would have to consider whether there was really a strong person behind her. Sure enough, hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Old Qin believed it. So that's how it is. I'd like to meet this world-renowned expert who could concoct the spirit-gathering liquid and the foundation-building liquid. Unfortunately, with my status, I can't meet this expert. I'll leave the medicinal liquid and herbs behind. If the items are sold successfully, send those herbs to the Yi residence. I'll be staying here for a while. With that, Yun Luofeng took out a pile of bottles and jars from his spatial ring, as well as the lifelike grass. Chapter 796. Yi Shima was still in a daze as he walked out of the trading firm. He did not expect Yun Luofeng to have such a precious item in his hands. If these items were sold by the Yi family trading firm, it would not be long before the Yi family trading firm's name shook the entire continent. Sister, thank you. Yi Shima finally recovered from his shock. He turned to Yun Luofeng and said, with the treasures you've taken out, the Yi family trading firm's profits will increase by a generation. Yun Luofeng smiled, we're just taking what we need. Ha, Yi Shima laughed heartily. Sister Feng, as your elder brother, I am liking your personality more and more. How could he not know that Yun Luofeng had said that because she did not want him to owe her a favor? After all, there were so many trading firms on the main road, but she had chosen the Yi family trading firm. No matter what, he would definitely owe her a favor. Yun Shao frowned slightly and glanced at Yi Shima with a cold gaze. That gaze was as sharp as a knife, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. He could not help but shiver. However, Yun Shao quickly retracted his gaze. When he looked at Yun Luofeng, the coldness in his eyes gradually disappeared and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Yi Shima rubbed his eyes in surprise. So, this cold fellow could also smile? However, all his warmth had been given to one woman, and his smile had only blossomed for one person. At this moment, in the alley, Shui Rower had just turned the corner and walked in. Suddenly, a fiery red figure descended from the sky and landed in front of her. Shui Rower was startled. When she saw the little girl in front of her, she regained her composure and asked coldly, "Why are you blocking my way?" Fire crossed his arms and looked at Shui Rower with a smile. "Why? Are you not going to continue pretending? Or is it that Yi Shima and that idiot Yi Qi are not here, so you don't even have the interest to pretend anymore?" Shui Rower frowned. "Little girl, you should go back and find your mother to drink milk. Do you think a little girl like you can subdue me? Don't let me beat you up until you cry." Fire gently raised his chin, his expression arrogant. "What a pity, just a little girl like me can make you speechless." "You?" Shui Rower was furious. Just as she was about to speak, a large sack suddenly fell from above her head, covering her entire body. "Who told you to spy on people you shouldn't have? Who asked you to pretend to be a pure white lotus? This is fucking disgusting. From now on, every time you appear in front of me, I'll beat you up once. I'll beat you up until you don't dare to show your face anymore." Fire punched and kicked Shui Rower, who was on the ground. Her small fists were very powerful, and her eyes were faintly filled with anger. "Shui Rower, don't think that idiot Yi Qi can protect you. If you dare to cause trouble for my master, for my sister again, I will burn your entire family down." She had wanted to call him master, but she remembered Yun Luofeng's instructions and changed her mind. After beating up Shui Rower again, Fire clapped his hands and left this secluded alley in a carefree and unrestrained manner. After a long while, the woman in the sack finally broke free. Her face was swollen and bruised, and she was beaten beyond recognition. She stared hatefully at the direction Fire left in and gritted her teeth. "Just you wait. I will definitely not let you off easy. When Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling return, it will be the time of your death." Chapter 797. Jun Fengling was very fond of her godson, Yi Shima. If she knew that her godson was seduced by a woman who approached Yi Shima for the Yi family's wealth, based on Jun Fengling's protective personality, she would never let them go. In a bustling restaurant, the woman in red sat by the window. She looked worried and frowned in silence. In front of her sat a handsome man dressed in embroidered robes. He looked at the red-dressed female lead tenderly and comforted her. "Jun, don't worry. Since we already have Feng and Xiao's portraits, we'll be able to find them very soon." "I hope so." The woman in red sighed softly and said with a bitter smile, "If I knew that they were the two people we met in the Forest of No Return, I wouldn't have let them go. Who would have thought that they were using fake names and missed this meeting?" The woman in red did not blame them when she said that. After all, it was their first time in the land of no return and it was right to be cautious. She was just blaming herself for not asking more. Otherwise, they would not have missed the meeting. At that moment, a discussion was heard in the restaurant, interrupting Jun Fengling's thoughts. "Did you guys hear something? I heard that something happened in Kargalik." "Something happened in Kargalik?" Jun Fengling was stunned for a moment. Her red phoenix eyes turned to the person who was discussing. Her handsome brows furrowed even tighter and her expression did not look good. Could it be that someone had caused trouble for while she and brother Yi were away? Kargalik? Isn't that the territory of the Yi family's eldest son, Yi Jingchen? Although Yi Jingchen was expelled from the Yi family, he still has the surname Yi. Who would have the guts to cause trouble for them? A drinking buddy at the same table looked curiously at the person who had just exposed the news and asked in confusion. Hee hee, you don't know about this. The informant laughed. Indeed, no one would dare to cause trouble in Kargalik. However, don't forget that Kargalik has a young and vigorous Sir Yi Shima. My niece is from Kargalik. She told me personally that Yi Shima was seduced by a woman and that woman wanted to empty the Yi family's business. Hearing this, the surrounding people were all astonished. Is this news true? It's absolutely true. I think the woman's surname is Feng, and she has a little girl in red with her. These two girls are quite ambitious. For the sake of Kargalik's wealth, they didn't hesitate to seduce Mr. Yi Shima. TSK, the most despicable person is truly invincible. How could young Master Yi fall for such a slut? Since your niece is in Kargalik, what other gossip could she have? This. The man was silent for a while, then said helplessly, my niece also told me that the woman who seduced Mr. Yi also drove a wedge between Mr. Yi and Miss Yi Chi. She even said that she wanted to enter the Yi family no matter what. Once she entered the Yi family, she would definitely kick Yi Chi out. My niece couldn't stand it and wanted to stand up for her. She even beat her up. Everyone sighed. They had never seen such a cheap woman before. Who does she think she is? Even if Miss Yi Chi was Yi Jingxin's adopted daughter, she was still a member of the Yi family. How could she be so shameless as to kick her out? Wasn't she overestimating herself? Chapter 798. Jun Fengling's face changed when she heard their voices. Seems like Kargalik has undergone a huge change while we were away. Yi Jingxin was silent for a moment before he asked, do you believe these rumors? Jun Fengling shook her head. I believe him. It's not that easy for others to take advantage of him. Otherwise, we wouldn't be at ease to hand over these businesses to him. Yi Jingxin laughed. His woman was naturally intelligent. How could she be deceived by these rumors? However, Jun Fengling slowly stood up and scoffed, I still have to go back to Kargalik. I want to know who dares to spread rumors about the Yi family. Yi Jingxin's lips curled into a gentle smile. Let's go back to the Yi family first and settle this matter before we continue to look for Xiao. Jun Fengling was more protective of her own. Moreover, Yun Xiao had not been by her side all these years. It was always Mo who accompanied her. She had long regarded Mo as her own son. Therefore, she would not allow any rumors to hurt him. Kargalik. Ever since Yun Luofeng entrusted the elixir and other items to the Yi family business, it immediately caused an earthquake in Kargalik. In this mainland that lacked elixirs, one could only imagine the efficacy of those elixirs. As a result, the entire Yi family business was overcrowded. From morning till night, there was not a single empty space. In the past, when people met, the first thing they asked was, have you eaten today? Now, it had become, have you gone to the Yi family business today? Originally, the elixir and other items only caused a stir in Kargalik. Not long after, experts from other places also arrived, causing the supply of those items to fall short of the demand. Therefore, Old Qin had no choice but to increase the exchange requirement. That was how the Yi family business temporarily did not fall into chaos. Yi residence. In an exquisite boudoir, Yi Chi sat in front of her dressing table in a daze. Suddenly, the door was pushed open. She was overjoyed and turned around. Big brother, you're finally... why is it you? When she saw the woman who appeared at the door, Yi Chi was stunned for a moment and her face became dejected again. It had already been so many days, but Big Brother still didn't pay attention to her. Could it be that he would never look at her again in this lifetime? Thinking of this, Yi Chi's heart ached. She said dejectedly, I thought Big Brother was looking for me. I didn't expect it to be you. Shui Roer walked over to Yi Chi with a gentle smile in her eyes. Chi, something happened these past few days, causing me to be unable to find you. Are you angry at me? Yi Chi shook her head and looked at Shui Roer. However, she was stunned when she saw the scars on Shui Roer's face. What's going on? How did you get hurt? Shui Roer's eyes darkened. It's a long story. When I was talking to my master, the little girl beside Lady Feng accidentally hurt us. She came out and beat me up. She even warned me to stay away from the Yi residence. She also said that she would beat me up every time she saw me. So, I can only come to find you after she leaves the Yi residence. What? Yi Chi flew into a rage and immediately jumped up. Her face was filled with anger. That stupid girl, how dare she be so arrogant? Roa, why didn't you fight back? From Yi Chi's point of view, Fire was just a little girl. She was definitely no match for Shui Roa. Chapter 799. Shui Roa was injured because she did not fight with her. Hearing this, Shui Roa's face was filled with helplessness. No matter what, she is still a child. As the saying goes, it is the fault of the father if the child is not taught well. She is mischievous and willful because her parents did not teach her well. It is not her fault. How can I fight with a child? Her words were very gentle. It was hard to imagine that there was a sinister heart hidden under her gentle face. Yi Chi became even more furious and immediately wanted to find trouble with Fire. She is too lawless. If I do not teach her a lesson, she might still treat the Yi family as her own home. Chi, Shui Roa hurriedly pulled Yi Chi back. She won't admit it even if you look for her. If that's the case, your relationship with Brother Yi will worsen. I don't want to see that happen. Compared to your happiness, what's the big deal if I suffer a little? Yi Chi stopped in her tracks and sighed heavily. In this life, to have a friend like Shui Roa who would consider everything for her, what regrets did she have? She really did not know why Big Brother looked down on her. Chi, you can't blame her for this. She beat me up because of me. Shui Roa lowered her eyes and said in a gentle tone. Yi Chi frowned. What do you mean? She was clearly too arrogant, so why do you still want to take all the blame? Chi. Shui Roa bit her thin lips and her eyes were slightly misty. I was being a busybody. Because my master is very skilled in medicine, I asked her if she could cure your mother's infertility. My master said that if she gave him a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid, he would diagnose Madame Yi for free. Yi Chi was dumbfounded like a thunderclap in her head. She was overwhelmed with a strong sense of surprise. When she came back to her senses, she placed her hands on Shui Roa's shoulders excitedly, and her voice trembled slightly. Are you saying that your master can cure my adoptive mother's body? Shui Roa nodded affirmatively. As long as I give her a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid, he will diagnose her. Moreover, I am very confident in my master. Unfortunately, these words were heard by that little girl. She waited for my master to leave before coming out to find trouble with me. Yi Chi was confused, and her face was full of confusion. What does this have to do with that girl? Why did she hit you for this? Shui Roa lowered her head again. I didn't want to tell you about this, but I didn't want you to be kept in the dark. That girl wants the Yi residence's wealth and power. Therefore, he had the idea of hitting Big Brother Yi. If Madame Yi gives birth to another child, it will pose a threat to Brother Ye's position. Hence, she came out to warn me. Shui Roa originally wanted to frame Yun Luofeng, but Yi Chi knew that Yun Luofeng already had a man. That was why she placed this matter on Fire's head. That's impossible. Yi Chi's face was a little pale. She shook her head. That little girl is only 8 or 9 years old. How could an 8 or 9-year-old child, whose mind was not yet mature, have such a scheming mind? Furthermore, the age difference between her and Big Brother is too big. A sinister glint flashed across Shui Roa's eyes, but it disappeared in a flash. Chi, you must understand that Miss Feng's mind is not ordinary. Maybe she was the one who instructed this girl to seduce Big Brother Yi, and her target was the Yi family. Chapter 800. In Yi Chi's heart, Yi Shima was her sore spot. She would never allow anyone to set their eyes on him. Roa, go back and wait for me. I'll go look for Big Brother now and tell him the truth. Even if she had to risk falling out with Yi Shima this time, she had to reveal the true colors of those people in front of him. Chi, it's useless. Shui Roa laughed bitterly. Big Brother Yi won't believe you. What you're doing is useless. What should I do then? Let those people lie to Big Brother? Yi Chi clenched her fists tightly. She looked a little anxious. Shui Roa's eyes flickered and she said in a deep voice, I have an idea. What is it? Yi Chi was stunned. She lifted her head to look at Shui Roa and asked anxiously, What idea do you have? Shui Roa smiled gently. My master will return to the Yi residence soon. As long as he can get his hands on the spirit-gathering liquid, he will treat your mother's condition. Once your mother has fully recovered, Big Brother Yi will definitely look at you in a different light. By then, he will believe whatever you say. Yi Chi clenched her fists tighter. Are you saying that we still have to let those people stay by Big Brother's side? This is the only way we can do it. Shui Roer's words made Yi Chi's body go limp. She knew that this was indeed the only option she had. Otherwise, based on Big Brother's attitude toward her, he would never believe her. When is your master coming? He left Kargalik a few days ago. He's on his way. Shui Roer smiled gently. No one could imagine that such a gentle and kind woman would have such a wild ambition. Now, whenever she thought of Yun Zhao's handsome and cold face, she would fall into a trance. She secretly made up her mind to get this man. Yi Chi did not have to wait for long before Yi Shima and the rest returned. At the same time, Shui Roer's master arrived at the Yi residence. When she heard the servant's report, she was elated and said hurriedly, Your master is here. I'll go with you to welcome him. By the way, how confident is your master in curing my adoptive parents? Shui Roer replied in a serious tone. My mentor once treated a similar patient and he even succeeded. So, even if he's not 100% confident, he's at least 80% confident. Roer, Yi Chi held Shui Roer's hand and said gratefully, If you succeed, you'll be our family's benefactor. I'll never forget your kindness. Shui Roer lowered her head slightly, so Yi Chi didn't notice the gloomy look on her face. Her master had indeed treated the same illness, but it was not a success, but a failure. However, it was impossible for her to tell Yi Chi the truth. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to trick Yi Chi into giving her the spirit-gathering liquid. As for the treatment after that, anyway, she didn't say that it would definitely succeed, did she? The spirit-gathering medicinal liquid was merely a consultation fee, not a treatment fee. When the time came, he could just come up with an excuse. Although Yi Jingchen and his wife were protective, they were also open-minded people. They definitely wouldn't punish them just because their master couldn't treat them. Chi, let's go. Shui Roer returned to her senses and lifted her head. She smiled at Yi Chi again and said, For your sake, I won't let those people succeed. A good woman like Madame Yi shouldn't be without a son. Yi Chi didn't think much of it. She nodded and walked out of the room with Shui Roer. Chapter 801. Outside the door, the old man stood with his hands behind his back. He seemed to be a little impatient from waiting. His arrogant brows were slightly furrowed and his expression did not look too good. A moment later, Yi Chi and Shui Roer rushed over. When Yi Chi saw the old man outside the door, she suppressed her surging emotions and slowly walked up to him. The old man in front of her had a sage-like demeanor and the demeanor of a powerful cultivator. Yi Chi trusted him without a doubt. Even so, Yi Chi still asked, Can you really cure my adoptive mother's illness? The old man frowned slightly and said coldly, It seems like you don't believe in my abilities. If you don't believe me, I can leave now and pretend that I've never been here. However, let me tell you, if Roer had not come to me and begged me, I wouldn't have saved her even if you offered me 1,000 bottles of spirit-gathering liquid, let alone a bottle of it. A capable doctor would naturally have his own pride. If this old man had been polite to her, she might have considered the truth of this matter. However, it was precisely because of this old man's arrogant attitude that she trusted him even more. Senior, you've misunderstood. I was just speaking casually. I'm not doubting you. After all, I've never seen your name on the streets. Yi Chi smiled charmingly as she spoke politely. Chi, Shui Roer hurriedly tugged at Yi Chi's sleeve. Her eyes were filled with worry as she said, My master hates it when people doubt his medical skills. It's best if you don't say anything. Indeed, Yi Chi's words had already caused the old man's face to sink and he scoffed coldly. How can people like you know my name? All these years, I've been living in seclusion in the mountains and have had no interest in the rich and powerful. If it wasn't for Roer's medical talent, I wouldn't have accepted her as my disciple. The old man's face was cold and stern, and his tone was filled with righteousness. The powerful aura that he exuded from the inside made Yi Chi's heart finally relax. Senior, don't worry. As long as you save my adoptive mother, the Yi family will agree to any conditions you have. Yi Chi curled her lips slightly. Her adoptive mother's inability to give birth had been a sore point for many years. Furthermore, if not for that, his adoptive parents would not have been expelled from the Yi family. As long as his adoptive mother had a child, the Yi family would once again accept their family. The old man looked at Yi Chi arrogantly. Give me a bottle of spiritual medicine. I can diagnose Madame Ye's illness immediately. Yi Chi was delighted. The Yi family's business is managed by my elder brother, and he has all the spirit-gathering elixir. Senior, please follow me. I'll take you to see my elder brother. This time, if she really helped her godmother, Big Brother would definitely look at her in a different light. Yi Chi turned around and walked into the courtyard with Shui Rower and the old man following behind her. However, when they reached the courtyard, a fiery red figure suddenly descended from the sky and blocked their way. Shui Ro, have you forgotten the warning I gave you? Who allowed you to come to this place? Fire placed his hands on his hips and glared at him. Her jade-like face was filled with anger. Her bright red dress swayed in the breeze, as if it was dyed with blood. It was so red that it was dazzling to the eyes. Shui Rower's small face turned pale and she subconsciously hid behind Yi Chi as she looked at Fire timidly. Stupid girl, this is my house. How dare you be so impudent in my house? How did your parents educate you? Chapter 802. Yi Chi glared at Fire angrily. But just as she finished speaking, Fire's figure suddenly appeared in front of her from a few meters away. With a clear sound, he slapped her face. How my parents educated me has nothing to do with you, but right now, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of Yi Jingchen. Fire slightly raised his chin and said sarcastically. Yi Chi was stunned. She couldn't believe that Fire actually dared to make a move on her in the Yi residence. Especially since she hadn't noticed her movements just now. How can you hit someone? Shui Rower's voice was very weak, without the slightest bit of deterrence. Her eyes were filled with a pitiful light, making people want to love her. I know that Miss Feng misunderstands me and thinks that I want to steal her man, but I really don't have any thoughts about that man. Why do you keep trying to cause trouble for me? At the end of her sentence, Shui Rower's voice was filled with grief and indignation. If someone who didn't know the truth heard this, they would think that she had been wronged. Obviously, the old man was the one who didn't know. He sneered, his lips curling into a mocking smile. I really don't know how outstanding that man is, to the point that his woman thinks that my disciple wants to steal him away. Does she really think that her man is loved by everyone and that everyone will like him? I believe that with my disciple's eyes, she can't even compare to that man. Fire glanced at the old man as if she was looking at an idiot. Of course my sister's man is outstanding. Otherwise, your disciple wouldn't have peeked at him. Unfortunately, someone like your disciple is not even comparable to a 10,000th of my sister. Even if my brother-in-law were blind, he would still look down on her. Shui Rower's eyes darkened. She did not think that she could not compare to Yun Luofeng. It was only because Yun Xiao had met Yun Luofeng first that she was unable to get involved. If that man had met her first, the person who would have obtained his infatuation would definitely have been her. The old man was so angry that he laughed. This old man has lived for so many years, but I have never seen such an arrogant person. Not only is my disciple talented and beautiful, her personality is also excellent. You actually said that she can't compare to that woman? What a joke. It's just that doesn't like your brother-in-law. Otherwise, your brother-in-law would have already belonged to Ro. The old man glanced at Shui Roer, who was standing beside him, and his eyes were filled with pride. The man that my disciple has taken a fancy to will definitely be outstanding. Since she was not interested in him, it meant that the man was not good enough. Also, his voice paused for a moment before it suddenly became extremely sharp. Little girl, you are too rude. I want you to apologize to my disciple immediately. Otherwise, I will not treat Madame Yi. Yi Chi's heart suddenly trembled, and a hint of anxiety flashed across her eyes. Senior, I will definitely make her apologize to Ro. You must save my adoptive mother. With that, she turned to Fire, her charming face instantly turned cold and shouted, "Apologize to Rower now." Fire curled his lips. "Even Yi Jingchen doesn't dare to speak to me like that. Who do you think you are?" If it was anyone else, hearing Fire's disrespect towards Yi Jingchen, they would definitely suspect her identity. Unfortunately, Yi Qi's eyes were already red with anger. She couldn't even think straight. Chapter 803. As a guest of the Yi residence, you must listen to me. If you don't apologize to I'll kick you out and make you sleep on the streets. She thought that since she had put it this way, the little girl would definitely be a little afraid. However, to her disappointment, even though she had used threats, the little girl still had a look of indifference on her face. Just as Yi Qi was about to rebuke him, she suddenly caught a glimpse of a few people coming from the backyard. Her eyes suddenly lit up. "Big brother, you're finally here." She only had eyes for Yi Shima. As for Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, they were completely ignored by her. What happened? Yi Shima frowned and asked coldly. Yi Qi glanced at Fire proudly. "Isn't it because you have Big Brother backing you up?" However, you probably didn't expect that in Big Brother's heart, the most important person will always be his adoptive mother. For the sake of his adoptive mother, he will definitely abandon you. Thinking of this, Yi Qi looked at Yi Shima and said, "Big brother, this is Rower's master. He claims that he has a way to cure adoptive mother's infertility." "What did you say?" Yi Shima's heart skipped a beat. He put his hand on Yi Qi's shoulder excitedly and said, "Are you serious? Can he really cure godmother's illness?" Yi Qi nodded her head affirmatively. "That's right, he has the ability to do so. However, this little girl has humiliated just now, so he's planning to leave in a fit of anger. If you want him to stay, you must make this little girl apologize to A pair of proud eyes glanced at Fire once again, and a gloating smile appeared on her face. Perhaps she could already see the scene of her big brother forcing her to apologize. The excitement on the man's handsome and tough face slowly disappeared. His hands, which were tightly pressed on Yi Qi's body, were also slowly released. "Yi Qi, I can agree to his other requests, but this is the only one that I can't." The smile on Yi Qi's face suddenly froze. She widened her pretty eyes in shock and said in a slightly trembling voice, "Big brother, even now, you still want to protect her? Even if I have to disregard my adoptive mother?" She couldn't believe that the big brother she had always respected was this kind of person. For the sake of a little girl, he didn't even care about his godmother? Say no more. No matter what, I won't agree to it. Yi Shima's eyes turned cold and he remained expressionless. The old man frowned. To him, it was easy for a little girl to apologize. He did not expect that Yi Shima would not agree no matter what. "Master!" Shueroer quickly pulled on the old man's sleeve and said in a low voice, "Don't forget why we're here." She deliberately lowered her voice when she said this, but Yun Luofeng and Yun Zhao's ears were very sensitive. No matter how low she lowered her voice, they could still hear it clearly. Yun Luofeng slightly raised his eyebrows as he lazily leaned against the tree. His evil eyes looked at Shueroer with a smile that wasn't a smile, and there was a mysterious light in his eyes. As for Yun Xiao, no matter what Shueroer's motive was, as long as her target wasn't Yun Luofeng, then it had nothing to do with him. He would not waste his time on unnecessary people. This old man is magnanimous and won't bother with a little girl. The old man arrogantly glanced at Fire, then turned his gaze to Yi Shima and said, "To be honest, if my disciple hadn't come to beg me, I wouldn't have treated her at all. Now that I've made a move, the treatment fee can't be low. Give me a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid first, then I'll diagnose Madame Ye's illness." Chapter 804. Spirit-gathering liquid? Yi Shima frowned. The spirit-gathering liquid doesn't belong to the Yi family. I can't make the decision to give it to you. You should ask for something else. The old man frowned. Since the Yi family is selling the spirit-gathering liquid, the owner of the spirit-gathering liquid has to rely on the Yi family. It's not a big deal if you ask her to give you a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid. Yi Shima's brows furrowed even more, and his face turned green. The owner of the spirit-gathering liquid doesn't rely on the Yi family. Our relationship is mutually beneficial. I have no right to ask for anything from her. That's easy. The old man smiled. Tell her that if she doesn't give you a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid, you can announce her identity. I'm sure she won't dare to go against the Yi family. Yi Shima was a little annoyed. The Yi family has its own rules. We will never divulge the orders of our customers. Are you trying to make me break my promise? The old man's expression did not look too good. Why can't you be more flexible? Is your reputation more important than your godmother's health? Hee hee. Suddenly Yishima laughed. It was unclear whether he was laughing because he was amused or because he was angry at him. The Yi family has 500-year-old medicinal herbs that can be exchanged for the spirit-gathering liquid. If you can cure my godmother, I'll use my medicinal herbs to exchange for it. The prerequisite was that his godmother's health had to be fully recovered. Yun Luofeng glanced at Yi Shima with a smirk. If Yi Shima had asked for it, she would not have rejected him. However, he did not do so. Instead, he chose to use his medicinal herbs to exchange for the spirit-gathering liquid. Perhaps, this was the reason why she liked Yi Shima. Mr. Yi, it's not impossible for me to cure Madame Yi. However, the cost of saving her isn't as simple as a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid. I'll need 10 bottles. 10 bottles of spirit-gathering liquid required 5,500-year-old medicinal herbs. The Yi family could only exchange for 4 bottles of spirit-gathering liquid at the moment. However, Yi Shima still clenched his teeth and said, "Sure, as long as my godmother gets pregnant successfully, I'll exchange for 100 bottles of spirit-gathering liquid for you, let alone 10 bottles." At worst, he would shamelessly go back to the Yi clan and earn enough medicinal ingredients to exchange for 10 bottles of spirit-gathering liquid for his adoptive mother. In the end, Yi Shima added, "The condition is that you must cure my godmother's illness first." The old man's face darkened. He had demanded an exorbitant price just now to force Yi Shima to agree to his previous request. Who would have thought that he would agree immediately? The old man was well aware of his own capabilities. He did not have the ability to treat Jun Fengling at all. At this moment he suddenly wanted to retreat. Unlike Yi Qi, Yi Shima was cunning and not as gullible as Yi Qi. It wouldn't be that easy to swindle the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid from him. If not for the fact that he only had 4 500-year-old medicinal herbs with him and was still missing one, he would not have thought of using this method to swindle Yi Shima. Thinking of this, the old man's eyes turned a few times, and a glint flashed across his eyes. He put his fist to his lips, coughed twice, and said, "Good. I agree to treat Madame Yi first. However, as a condition of treating her, I want to add one more condition." Chapter 805. He raised his chin slightly and looked down at the little girl. "Ask this girl to kneel down and apologize to my disciple." Since Yi Shima loved this little girl so much, he would definitely not agree to his conditions. In that case, he would be able to retreat with a good reason. Sure enough, Yi Shima's eyes darkened and he said coldly, "I told you, I will never agree to this request of yours." The old man raised the corner of his lips. "If you don't agree, then I can only forgive you. Goodbye. Oh, let's go." After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. "Wait." Yi Qi stamped her feet anxiously. "Big brother, so what if you ask this girl to apologize? Is this girl more important to you than my adoptive mother?" Yi Shima's face turned cold. "Yi Qi, shut up. What right do you have to shut me up?" Yi Qi turned to fire angrily. "This little girl is so young, but her methods are very clever. Of course, I believe that someone must have instructed her to do this. Otherwise, she wouldn't have seduced you like this." Yi Shima was stunned. He did not expect Yi Qi to think that he and fire were crooked. "Yi Qi, what nonsense are you talking about?" He frowned slightly. "Fire, this girl has a special identity. If you want to be rude to her in the end, don't blame me for not warning you." Yi Qi saw that Yi Shima was protecting fire, and she felt sour in her heart. Her identity is quite special. She is the future mistress of the Yi family. "Big brother, I was wrong about you. I didn't expect you to be a pedophile." "Yi Qi." Yi Shima was furious. "Who said that to you?" Yi Qi laughed mockingly. "Why? Did I hit the nail on the head? I'm just reminding you as a sister that this little girl is not a good person. She got close to you for the sake of the entire Kargalik. That's why she destroyed everything and didn't allow you to diagnose her body. She was afraid that she would steal your position after having a baby, and you still believe in her so deeply. Yi Qi's voice unconsciously rose, and she looked very angry. But what about you? Are you worthy of your adoptive parents by doing this? Yi Shima clenched his fists tightly. He took a deep breath to suppress his urge to beat Yi Qi up. Right at this moment, a burst of laughter suddenly came from outside the courtyard. It was exceptionally clear in this quiet courtyard. What did do to me? Tell me about it. I'm also very curious as to how he let me and brother Yi down. Yi Qi's body trembled. She slowly turned around and looked at the man and woman who were striding down from the horse. Her eyes reddened and tears of grievance rolled down her cheeks. Godfather, godmother, you're finally back. Dressed in bright red clothes, like a bright red flame, he hurriedly strode in from outside the courtyard. Yun Luofeng was startled. His evil eyes flashed as he murmured, "It's them?" Obviously, she still had a deep impression of the woman who had asked for their names in the forest of no return. However, she did not expect that she was Yi Shima's adoptive mother. Godmother. Yi Shima finally relaxed. Didn't you go to look for my brother? Why are you back so soon? Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows slightly. I heard that something happened in Kargalik, so I rushed back with your godfather. Can you tell me what happened? Then she glanced at Yun Luofeng. The moment she saw the two of them, she was stunned. Chapter 806. Godmother, here's what happened. Yi Shima looked at Yi Qi and said, Shuero fell in love with Miss Feng's man and deliberately asked Yi Qi to target Miss Feng. She even claimed that Miss Feng instructed fire to seduce me. Then, you and Godfather came back, Miss Feng? Jun Fengling had not recovered from her shock when she heard Yi Shima's words. Her eyes flashed with surprise. Godmother, let me introduce two people to you. Yi Shima smiled. These two are my new friends. Her name is Feng Luo Yun and the other is her man, Xiao Yun. Jun Fengling's gaze gradually shifted from Yi Shima to Yun Luofeng. She raised her eyebrows slightly. Didn't you say that your name is Lin Ruobai? And you? She turned to Yun Xiao. Isn't your name Yunimo? Yi Qi, who had wanted to complain, was stunned after hearing Jun Fengling's words. Her face was full of shock. Godmother knew them? In comparison, Yun Luofeng, who had been exposed on the spot, was not embarrassed at all. She said seriously, Lin Ruobai is my nickname. Is that so? Since your surname is Feng? Why is your nickname Lin? Because my mother's surname is Lin. As far as I know, your mother's name is Bai Ling. Jun Fengling smiled. That smile was very proud, as if using words to choke Yun Luofeng was something to be proud of. Who told this girl to claim that her name was Lin Ruobai? If she had not given them a fake name, she would not have searched for them for so long. Fortunately, the heavens were watching over her and she finally found them. The smile on Yun Luofeng's face slowly disappeared. His breathing gradually became heavier. You know me? At this moment, Yun Xiao, who had not been paying attention to this dispute, finally turned his face because of the matter involving Yun Luofeng. His cold eyes faintly revealed a cold glint. Under his cold gaze, Jun Fengling curled her lips into a faint smile and looked straight at Yun Luofeng. I don't know you, I only know Yun Luofeng. She looked heroic. If you're Yun Luofeng, then you're someone I know. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes, and a dangerous light flashed through them. Then what is your relationship with her? I'm her mother-in-law. What relationship do you think I have with her? The smile on Jun Fengling's face deepened. She stared at Yun Luofeng with a pair of half-smiling eyes. Yun Luofeng's face finally froze. She said she was her mother-in-law, which meant she was Yun Zhao's mother? After hearing this, Yun Zhao's expression changed for a moment, but it quickly became paralyzed again. To him, the word mother was a distant memory. It had been so long that he had forgotten what she looked like. Yi Qi's face turned from green to white, then from white to green again. She took 2 steps back, bit her lip and said, These two people are the ones foster father and foster mother are looking for? The funny thing was, she actually wanted to chase these two people out of the Yi mansion. She was only an adopted daughter. What right did she have to chase out her adoptive mother's biological son and daughter-in-law? At this moment, Yi Qi's state of mind had already undergone a huge change. However, her tightly bitten lip was still pale. Shuero's mind raced. If this man really was Yi Jingchen and his wife's son, then she wanted him even more. As long as she became his woman, she would be the mistress of Kargalik. Even Yi Qi and her sister would have to live according to her wishes. At this moment, Shuero had already decided that no matter what, she would become Yun Zhao's wife. Chapter 807. Fuck. At this moment, Yi Shima, who was already dumbfounded, suddenly cursed. Isn't Feng Luo Yun Luo Feng? Xiao Yun is Yun Xiao. I didn't realize this at first. Sister, you've lied to me. At this moment, he finally understood why he had such a good impression of these two people he had never met before. So, Yun Xiao was his brother. Yi Jingchen was not overwhelmed by the joy of the family reunion. He turned to Yi Shima and asked, "Can you repeat what happened just now?" Godfather, in short, these people slandered Fire for seducing me under sister-in-law's orders. They even forced Fire to apologize to Shuero. I didn't agree, which caused this dispute. Yi Jingchen's face gradually darkened, and his gaze gradually fell on Yi Qi. Seeing the man's fierce gaze, Yi Qi's heart trembled. Godfather, is what your brother said true? Yi Jingchen interrupted Yi Qi sternly. Yi Qi bit her lips and lowered her head. I'm sorry, Godfather. I didn't know they were brother and sister-in-law. It was because the doctor that brought claimed that he could treat Godmother's body. However, because of Fire's rude words, Senior was unwilling to treat Godmother. I wanted Godmother to be pregnant, so I asked Fire to apologize to Ro. At this moment, the old man saw that the situation was not good and wanted to sneak away. However, before he could take a step forward, Yi Qi had already led the topic to him. Instantly, his expression changed. Yi Jingchen slightly raised his eyebrows, his sharp gaze shot towards the old man like a knife, and said coldly, "If you want Fire to apologize to Shuero, then I want to see if you have the ability to do so." Yi Qi's eyes widened in shock. Didn't Godfather love his godmother like a treasure? She thought that after she said such words, her godfather would definitely think about her godmother's health first. She didn't expect him to be the same as her brother and protect this little girl without caring about anything. Where did this girl come from? Why were they so protective of her? The old man's expression turned cold. If that's the case, then pretend that I was never here. Ro, let's go. He turned around and was about to leave the Yi residence. However, just as he took a step forward, a heroic laughter suddenly rang out from behind him. Did you just say that you can heal my body? Jun Fengling raised her lips slightly and walked slowly to Yi Jingchen's side. She raised her eyebrows and sneered. Yi Qi was overjoyed. Her anxious heart was finally at ease. As long as Godmother wanted to treat him, based on her authority in Kargalik, Godfather would definitely not say anything against her. That's right. The old man gritted his teeth. Even now, he still claimed that he could cure Jun Fengling's illness. He would never admit that he was here to deceive others. Jun Fengling raised his handsome eyebrows. Back then, Brother Yi searched everywhere for me and said that he couldn't cure my illness. Now, you claim that you can cure me. So, I just want to ask, what is your name on the mainland? You don't deserve my name, the old man raised his head pretentiously. He was about to say that Jun Fengling did not deserve to know, but he was interrupted by Yi Qi. Mother, his name is Wu Lin. These years, he has been living in seclusion in the mountains. This is why his name isn't as famous as the other doctors. Chapter 808. In an instant, the old man's expression changed, and he glared at Yi Qi fiercely. Shuero's expression did not look too good either. If she had known earlier, she would not have told this idiot her master's name. This idiot really couldn't do anything right, but he was good at spoiling things. Wulin. Jun Fengling laughed. Why have I never heard of such a name in the mainland? May I know who your master is? The old man's face was ashen. He clenched his fists tightly as cold sweat dripped down his back. You've never heard of me. I can only say that you're too ignorant. I dare say that my medical skills are not the best in the world, but I'm definitely second. Is that so? The smile in Jun Fengling's eyes deepened. She slowly walked towards the old man and raised her eyebrows, saying, Then treat me now. I want to see how good you are. The old man gritted his teeth. I won't take back what I said. If that girl doesn't apologize, I won't do anything. What? Just as the old man finished speaking, an ice-cold longsword was suddenly pressed against his neck, causing his body to suddenly stiffen. He looked up blankly and saw the woman's valiant and formidable demeanor. She was dressed in red, like the wind and fire, domineering and enchanting. Either you treat me or you choose to die. There's no way fire can apologize. The old man was completely dumbfounded. On the mainland, doctors had a very respectable status. No matter how powerful a person was, he or she would have to be polite to a famous doctor. However, he did not expect that Jun Fengling, this vicious woman, would be so overbearing that she would threaten him with a sword. The old man swallowed hard, his heart trembling. How could he treat Jun Fengling's physical condition? Or do you not know how to treat it at all? Jun Fengling narrowed her eyes. You came here to cheat and cheat. The old man's eyelids twitched a few times. What nonsense are you talking about? You know very well whether I'm spouting nonsense or not. Jun Fengling exerted force with the sword in his hand and a bloody gash appeared on his neck. You should know the price of coming to Kargalik to deceive people. Cold sweat trickled down the old man's forehead and his face was pale. Under Jun Fengling's coercion, he could not hold it in and knelt on the ground with a thud. Madam Yi, I was wrong. I shouldn't have come to the Yi residence to deceive you. I can't cure your illness at all. Please let me go. The old man kowtowed heavily. Compared to saving his life, he didn't care about any dignity. Nothing was more important than staying alive. Yi Qi was stunned. She stared in disbelief at the old man who was kneeling on the ground. Her pretty face was as pale as a sheet. Had she been deceived by this old thing? And because of this, the conflict between him and his eldest brother became deeper and deeper? At the thought of this, Yi Qi was filled with endless anger. He walked forward and kicked the old man's chest hard. Old bastard, how dare you lie to me? She even caused me to quarrel with eldest brother and misunderstood second brother and second sister-in-law. It's all your fault, you old thing. Yi Qi's little face was flushed with anger. She kicked harder and harder, wishing that she could stomp this old thing to death. Remember, it's not so easy to deceive the Yi residents. Besides, I, Jun Fengling, have always been vengeful. Therefore, I will spread the news of your actions today so that everyone in the world understands your virtue. Chapter 809. The old man's legs turned to jelly and he fell to the ground. His eyes were glazed over and he was overwhelmed with despair. Jun Fengling was a member of the Yi family after all. No one would doubt her words. If the world found out about his deceit, there would be no place for him on this mainland. Get out of here. Jun Fengling barked. The old man quickly got up from the ground and ran out of the house. He was afraid that Jun Fengling would take revenge on him if he stayed any longer. Shui Rower stared blankly in the direction where the old man had left. She had yet to recover from the sudden turn of events. Shui Rower, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Yi Qi shouted angrily. Shui Rower suddenly covered her face and cried when she heard Yi Qi's angry voice. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I trusted my master too much. He told me that he was 80% confident, so I believed him. I really didn't know that he was trying to cheat me of the spirit-gathering liquid. Tears flowed down from the gaps between her fingers. Her body trembled violently. She was very sad. Chi, it's all my fault. I almost hurt your family. I'll never be able to see you again. Shui Roa was already crying so pitifully. How could Yi Qi bear to blame her? Moreover, she believed Shui Rower from the bottom of her heart. She thought that Shui Rower had only been deceived by the martial arts world. Rower, I shouldn't have blamed you just now. You're innocent too. This has nothing to do with you. Yi Qi's expression softened and she comforted her softly. Yun Luofeng could not help but look at Yi Qi when he heard their words. He then looked at Yi Shima and his lips curled into a smile. As expected, Yi Shima's face darkened when he saw that Yi Qi believed Shui Rower so easily. He scoffed coldly and turned to walk into the backyard. Miss Shui, Jun Fengling's eyes lit up and she smiled at the woman who was crying. Amour said that you like Xiao? Shui Rower panicked and quickly defended herself. Madam, I know that my status is low and my family is ordinary. I'm not worthy of Master Xiao. How would I dare to have any improper thoughts? She only claimed that her family background was ordinary, which was why she knew that she couldn't match up with Yun Xiao. However, she never denied whether or not she had taken a fancy to Yun Xiao. After all, in Shui Rower's heart, which mother didn't want her son to be loved by everyone? If she said that she didn't like Yun Xiao, would her mother Jun Fengling still be able to accept her in the future? Oh, Jun Fengling nodded slightly. Fortunately, you do know your place. You know that my Xiao is not someone you can imagine. Shui Rower's face instantly turned pale. She bit her lower lip and didn't make a sound. Yi Qi couldn't bear to see her like this, but she didn't dare to say anything in front of Jun Fengling. She could only look at Shui Rower apologetically. Madam, don't worry. Shui Rower raised her head and revealed a desolate smile. I really don't have any thoughts about young Master Xiao. Even if he has many concubines in the future, I won't be one of them. Even if she couldn't obtain Yun Xiao now, she would definitely make things difficult for Yun Luofeng. She would make him understand that as Yi Jingxin's stepson, Yun Xiao couldn't possibly only have one woman. As such, Shui Rower couldn't help but glance at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 8:10. However, the girl didn't seem to hear her. She was talking to the man next to her in a low voice. She didn't know what she said, but the man's cold expression melted instantly. He looked at her affectionately with his eyes that were as dark as the night. Shui Rower bit her lips, and a sinister look flashed across her eyes. I'll let you be happy for a while. Since Jun Fengling was his mother, she would love for her son to have countless women and grandchildren. No matter how much they loved each other, they couldn't be a couple for the rest of their lives. However, at this moment, the woman's dissatisfied voice came from above her head. I'm relieved that you think that way. But forget about the concubine. I don't want my son's house to be in chaos. If Jun Fengling had been indifferent to Shui Rower in the beginning, it had escalated to the level of dissatisfaction. Shui Rower suddenly reacted, and her face turned paler. How could she forget that Jun Fengling was the only woman Yi Jingxin had for so many years? He didn't take a concubine even when Jun Fengling was infertile. But she was stupid enough to say that Yun Xiao would take a concubine in front of Jun Fengling. Wasn't that equivalent to offending her? Madam, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I said the wrong thing. Shui Rower was very upset. How could a strong woman like Jun Fengling accept a man having multiple wives? Her views had already transcended the secular world. You didn't mean it? Jun Fengling smiled mockingly. Why do I feel that you're a smart person? How could someone like you not mean it? Forget it. Go away. Don't come to my house and don't interact with my children. Jun Fengling was so impatient that she didn't want to say anything else. Shui Rower wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and ran out of the house. Rower! Yi Qi stomped her feet and wanted to chase after Shui Rower. However, before she could take 2 steps, Jun Fengling's berating voice came from behind. Stop right there. Yi Qi turned around aggrievedly. Godmother, why do you all have to target her? Jun Fengling sighed. Chi-Chi, listen to your brother. He won't harm you. The ones who will harm you are those who you think are innocent. Yi Qi was stunned. Is adoptive mother referring to Roa? How is this possible? Why would Roa harm her? Go back to your room and think about it. Jun Fengling glanced at Yi Qi and retracted her gaze. She turned around and walked towards Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. Her beautiful face lit up with a smile. But, do you two have anything to say to me? Yun Luofeng smiled lazily. I didn't think that you would be Yun Xiao's mother. It looks like we are quite fated. Am I right? Auntie. Why are you still calling me auntie? Jun Fengling pretended to be dissatisfied, but her red phoenix eyes were smiling. Since you're Zhao's fiancé, It's only natural for you to call me mother. Yun Luofeng smiled. Mother. It was only a matter of time before she and Yunxiao got married, so it wasn't a big deal for her to call her mother early. That was why she didn't reject Jun Fengling's suggestion. Good girl. Jun Fengling beamed when she called her mother. You didn't lose out by calling me mother. After all, I've prepared a gift for you. Then, she took out a jade pendant from her lapel and stuffed it into Yun Luofeng's hand. On the jade pendant, the lifelike word Jun was dazzling, emitting a bright light under the sun. Chapter 8:11. When they saw Jun Fengling take out the jade pendant, Yi Jingchen and Yi Qi were stunned. Their eyes were filled with shock. Even though they did not know the origin of the jade pendant, they knew that Jun Fengling had always treated it as a treasure. Now, she had given it to Yun Luofeng without batting an eye? Normally, she would not even bear to let anyone touch her jade pendant, let alone give it away. This showed how much Yun Luofeng weighed in her heart. This jade pendant has no other use for you. It's just that the material used to make it is rather special. It can block 3 fatal attacks for you. However, it can only be used 3 times. After 3 times, it will become an ordinary jade pendant. Yun Luofeng was stunned. Does this jade pendant have any special meaning for you? Isn't it a little inappropriate for you to give it to me like this? Jun Fengling smiled. This jade pendant was given to me by my father, your maternal grandfather. It has been with me for many years. However, it has no other use for me other than as a souvenir. You, on the other hand, often provoke powerful enemies. If you don't have something to protect yourself with, I won't be able to rest easy. It was obvious that Jun Fengling was well aware of Yun Luofeng's personality. This man had always been the type to make a move at the slightest disagreement. No matter where he went, he would always make enemies. This was why she took out the jade pendant she loved so much. Yun Luofeng was touched. Putting the jade pendant's effects aside, the fact that Jun Fengling had given him a souvenir from her father proved that she saw him as family. Especially since her tone was very indulgent. She did not seem to mind that Yun Luofeng would make enemies. She was only worried about her safety. Jun Fengling smiled at Yunxiao and asked, What about you? We haven't seen each other for so many years. Do you have anything to say to me? Yunxiao's cold and callous face was slightly moved, but he was still unable to call out the word, mother, in the end. He thought about it and asked, Did you arrange a marriage between me and the Ling family? Hearing this, Jun Fengling furrowed her brows. I think so. It's been so long I almost forgot. Where's the token of love? Yunxiao's voice was low and hoarse. I lost it. Jun Fengling curled her lips. Lost it? Yunxiao's face instantly darkened. Just because she lost that token of love, he had to go through so much trouble just to cancel the engagement? What's wrong? People from the Ling family looked for you? He wants to be engaged to you? Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and asked. Even though Yi Jingchen had an acquaintance in the Roaring Dragon continent and had obtained information about Yunxiao and Yun Luofeng from that acquaintance, Yi Jingchen did not know much about Yunxiao and Yun Luofeng. However, the place where the Xiao family was located was not a place that ordinary people could enter. Hence, Jun Fengling knew nothing about what happened in the Xiao family. They wanted to break off the engagement and I agreed. Yunxiao glanced at Jun Fengling indifferently. But they were certain that even though I agreed verbally, I was unwilling to break off the engagement. So I hid the token of love. What? Upon hearing this, Jun Fengling flew into a rage and said hatefully, It's not enough for those people to expel you from the Xiao family. He actually came looking for you again and even said that my son was unwilling to break off the engagement with the little girl from the Ling family? Back then, your marriage was decided by those people from the Xiao family. I never thought that the little girl from the Ling family was worthy of you. Yun Zhao's low voice rang out again. The people from the Xiao family also said that you had been taken away by a mysterious person. That mysterious person was from the Ye family? Chapter 8:12. Jun Fengling was stunned and shook her head. The people who took me away weren't from the Yi family. Brother Yi and I only met in the forest of no return. She turned her head and smiled at Yi Jingchen with her phoenix eyes filled with deep affection. That year, The mysterious man left after taking me away. I even accidentally received news that the Xiao family's woman had thrown you into the forest of no return, so I went there to look for you. Who knew that not only did I not find you, but I was also seriously injured. It was Brother Yi who passed by and saved me and brought me back to the Yi family. Jun Fengling smiled. Her smile was beautiful, so beautiful that it was dazzling. Xiao, I haven't been by your side all these years, but I'm very clear about what happened between you and Feng. I'm very honored to have such an outstanding son and daughter-in-law. She retracted her gaze and held Yun Luofeng and Yun Zhao's hands, then placed them together tightly. I don't have any other wishes in this life. I just hope that the two of you can support each other for the rest of your lives. Yi Jingchen silently walked to Jun Fengling's side, the corners of his lips curled into a gentle smile. All these years, only he knew how much Jun Fengling had suffered. If it wasn't for the support of the news from the mainland, she might not have been able to hold on. Since you've already given me a greeting gift, I've also prepared a gift for you. Yun Luofeng kept the jade pendant and took out 2 fruits from the space ring with a smile. She handed them to Jun Fengling and Yi Jingchen respectively. These 2 fruits are my greeting gifts for you. Yi Qi was dumbfounded. Her adoptive mother had given her such a precious jade pendant as a greeting gift, but she had only given her 2 fruits to brush her off? How could she be so stingy? Jun Fengling did not mind. She accepted the fruits happily and said, "Isn't there a saying that favors are more important than gifts? The fruits given by my daughter-in-law will definitely be more fragrant than the ones outside." The fruits that Yun Luofeng had taken out were spirit fruits cultivated from the simple red fruit. However, due to some changes in appearance after cultivation, Jun Fengling could not recognize that it was the simple red fruit. She brought the fruit to her lips and took a gentle bite. Instantly, a fragrant juice flowed between her teeth, making her feel extremely comfortable. Boom! Suddenly, Jun Fengling's body trembled, and a powerful surge of spiritual energy burst out of her body, breaking through the bottleneck that was blocking her advancement. Above her head, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was still lingering, as if announcing her successful advancement. What happened? Yi Shima hurriedly ran in from the backyard. The moment he walked in, he saw that his parents and sister were stunned on the spot. A look of confusion flashed across his face. But very quickly, he was also stunned. He looked at the spirit qi circling above Jun Fengling's head and asked blankly, "Godmother, you broke through?" Godmother had been stuck at the bottleneck for a few years and had not shown any signs of breaking through. Why did she suddenly break through now? Jun Fengling was the first to return to her senses. She clearly understood that she had been able to break through because of the fruit that Yun Luofeng had given her. A strange light could not help but appear in her eyes. "Feng, can you tell me what's going on?" In an instant, everyone's gazes were focused on Yun Luofeng, waiting for her to give an answer. Chapter 8:13. Yun Luofeng shrugged. "Your luck is quite good. You just happened to be at a bottleneck, so you could use the spirit fruit to break through." Of course, there was another reason why Jun Fengling could break through. The reason for this was that a few days ago, she suddenly had the idea to water the bottle of holy water that she had obtained from Lin Ruobai's father on the aubergine tree. However, she still did not know what effect the spiritual fruit would have after being watered with holy water, so she took this opportunity to experiment. He did not expect the spiritual fruit to be more useful than before, as it could help venerable spiritualists break through. It was indeed beyond her expectations. Thinking of this, Yun Luofeng couldn't help but look towards Yun Xiao. "These things are useless to me." Yun Xiao saw through Yun Luofeng's thoughts and explained. The cultivation technique that he had learned was rather special. These items that borrowed external forces to break through were of no use to him. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, but he was not disappointed at all. As long as he became a venerable spiritualist, he would be able to dual cultivate with Yun Xiao. At that time, both of their strengths would increase. "Sister-in-law, I didn't expect you to have such a good thing." Yi Shima looked at Yun Luofeng resentfully. "Why didn't you give me a greeting gift?" Yun Luofeng glanced at Yi Shima. "If you encounter a bottleneck when you break through to become a venerable spiritualist, I can sell you a fruit." The corners of Yi Shima's mouth twitched, and his eyes were filled with resentment. Sister-in-law, you're biased. You're the one who gave them to my adoptive parents. Why should I have to spend money to buy them? Yun Luofeng nodded in agreement. I am indeed very biased, but there is nothing I can do about it. Who asked me to be biased? Yi Shima was so aggrieved that he was about to cry. His eyes were filled with resentment as if he had been abandoned. Big brother Yi, Yun Luofeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She patted Yi Shima's shoulder and smirked. Forget it, I won't tease you anymore. I'll give you one of these spirit fruits when you become a venerable spirit. Yi Shima finally smiled. Yun Luofeng's guarantee was more important than anything else. Yi Chi also wanted Yun Luofeng's spirit fruit, but when she thought about what she had done to him before, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Jun Fengling. I heard that you're infertile? Jun Fengling nodded, sighed, and said, the hidden illness from back then has caused me to be unable to have children now, and I've found countless famous doctors to treat it. Because of this, they were chased out of the Yi family. Let me see, Yun Luofeng said after thinking for a while. All right. Jun Fengling knew Yun Luofeng's strength, so she didn't refuse. She smiled. However, you don't have to feel burdened. It's fine even if my body can't be cured. It's just a pity that I can't give brother Yi a son or daughter. She already had Yun Shao, so naturally, she did not mind. Therefore, she regretted that she could not leave a trace of Yi Jingxin's bloodline. Do you need to take my pulse? Jun Fengling looked up and stretched out her wrist. I never take the pulse when I treat a patient. To her, she only needed to look at a person to know their illness. Therefore, the first time she saw Jun Fengling, she knew the condition of her body. However, that was only a rough observation. If she wanted to understand more, she would have to observe carefully. After a long time, Yun Luofeng withdrew his gaze. I understand your illness. It's not a big problem. I can treat it. Chapter 8:14. I can treat you. The girl's light voice was like a heavy hammer that hammered into the hearts of everyone present, causing their hearts to tremble. Jun Fengling stared at the girl in a daze, clearly unable to react to her words. Are you telling the truth? Could she really treat her? Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. I'm lacking some herbs. Get someone to bring me those herbs later. From today onwards, I'll start treating your illness. Jun Fengling and Yi Jingxin looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. If she could really get pregnant, the Yi family would no longer have the right to expel them from the family. All right. Yi Jingxin suppressed the excitement in his heart and said, give me the list of herbs you need. I'll send someone to get them right away. She had long heard of Yun Luofeng's medical skills. Hence, since she was certain that she could treat her, she believed that she definitely had the ability to do so. Brother Yi, I'll leave this matter to you. I still have a lot to discuss with Xiao and Feng. Don't disturb us before dinner. She winked at Yi Jingxin before pulling Yun Luofeng's hand and walking towards the backyard. Yun Xiao naturally followed when she saw that Yun Luofeng was being pulled away. Yi Shimo retracted his gaze from Yun Luofeng and turned to look at the pale-faced Yi Chi. He frowned slightly and said, they're your brother and sister-in-law. You should be more polite to them in the future. Don't be used by others. Yi Chi was stunned. She lowered her head and muttered softly, Wu was also deceived. She's innocent. Even though she said it very softly, Yi Shima still heard her. He laughed coldly and said, I don't care how much trust you have in Shuero. I only know that they're relatives of my godfather and godmother. All these years, without them, the two of us wouldn't exist. No matter what, I won't let you do anything to hurt my brother and sister-in-law. At this point, he paused for a moment before continuing, if you were someone else, I wouldn't have said a word to you. I'm willing to say so much to you because you're my younger sister. I don't want our family to never have a peaceful day. He had never seen Yun Xiao before, but he knew how much hardship his younger brother had suffered outside. Now that he and his sister-in-law had finally returned, how could he allow someone to continue hurting them? Yi Chi raised her eyebrows. I don't like that Yun Luofeng. Who asked you to scold me for those people? But I like my adoptive father and adoptive mother. For the sake of my adoptive father and mother, I won't do anything to harm them. Don't worry. Yi Shimo did not say anything else. He glanced at Yi Chi coldly, turned around, and walked toward the backyard. If his sister wasn't so stupid, she might be a good person. Unfortunately, he didn't like her stupidity. Yi Chi lowered her eyebrows slightly. A look of struggle flashed across her eyes, but she finally chose to walk out of the Yi residence's main door. Yi Chi had just walked into a tall and luxurious restaurant when she bumped into a woman in red. The woman's appearance was exceptionally beautiful, like a red peony, gorgeous and luxurious. Wait a minute. Seeing that Yi Chi was about to pass by, the woman in red suddenly called out and stopped her. Chapter 8:15. You again? Yi Chi frowned slightly and looked at the woman in red impatiently. She asked, "Why are you always pestering me?" This woman had been saying good things about Xianxia in front of her ever since she found her a few days ago. However, she already had Yi Shimo in her heart. No matter how good other men were, she would not like them. Miss Yi, I don't have any bad intentions. I'm just telling you what I know. It's said that your second brother, who has been missing for a long time, is a good man who is infatuated with love. If you can get him, he will definitely be devoted to you. So, I just want to help you. Sorry, I'm not interested. Yi Chi's face darkened. Don't look for me if you don't have anything else to say. If my godparents hear what you said, they will definitely not let me go. Hearing this, Jin Yu raised her eyebrows slightly. It's true that you have no interest in Yun Xiao, but I know who the person in your heart is. Yi Chi's body suddenly froze. She turned around with a cold look in her pretty eyes. What do you mean by that? Jin Yu's face was cold and elegant. Don't you understand what I mean? Do you want me to say in public that the person you like is Yi Shimo? However, I heard that Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao have come here. Moreover, the person in your heart is protecting them and going against you. Don't you hate them? She successfully saw Yi Chi's expression change drastically. Then she slowly approached her. So, we can cooperate. As long as you're willing. Enough. Yi Chi's body trembled slightly and she shouted angrily, My godparents gave me my life. Do you want me to bite the hand that feeds me? So what if I hate them? I won't do anything to make my godmother sad. Jin Yu was stunned. Just as she was about to continue to provoke Yi Chi, the delicate figure had already stepped into the second floor and disappeared from her sight. Looking at the direction in which Yi Chi had left, Jin Yu's heart suddenly sank. A cold smile appeared on her gorgeous face. She turned around and wanted to walk out of the restaurant. However, at this moment, a delicate voice sounded from the side. Do you know Yun Luofeng? Jin Yu raised her eyebrows. When she turned her eyes reflected a soft and beautiful face. The woman was dressed in white and pretentious. Even though there was a flash of hatred in her eyes, it was still easily captured by Jin Yu. You are? Jin Yu frowned and asked. Shui Rower clenched her fists tightly. I'm Yi Chi's friend, and I have a special relationship with the Yi family. You know Yun Luofeng? Jin Yu raised the corner of her lips. She has a grudge against you. That's right. Our hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. Shui Rower purposely lowered her voice, and her eyes were filled with intense hatred. If someone didn't know what was going on, they would have thought that Shui Rower had dug up her ancestors' graves. Tell me about it. Jin Yu was very interested. Yun Luofeng hadn't been in the Wuhui continent for long, and he had already made an enemy? Or an irreconcilable enemy? TSK, looks like my master was right. A person like Yun Luofeng is a disaster. There was no one she hadn't provoked before. Shui Rower concealed the viciousness in her eyes. She stole my man? Isn't this an irreconcilable hatred? Jin Yu was startled. Her lips curled into a sarcastic arc. Your man? Are you talking about Yun Xiao? Chapter 8:16. That's right. Shui Rower scoffed. I don't think I'm worse than Yun Luofeng. I'm just weaker because I met Yun Xiao later than her. But I really don't understand why Yun Xiao's mother thinks so highly of her and belittles me. As far as I know, Yun Luofeng came from the Longxiao mainland and his status is even lower than mine. Jin Yu's face gradually turned cold. She didn't like to hear these words. What did she mean by she wasn't worse than Yun Luofeng? If Yun Luofeng was bad, Why would her master try so hard to marry her? Did she mean that Xianxia had bad taste? Did that mean that her master had bad taste too? Jin Yu loved Bai Su deeply. How could she allow anyone to say bad things about her? Hence, anger surged in her heart and she sneered, "If you want to get Xianxia, there's a way." Shui Rower's eyes lit up and she asked. A sinister look flashed across Jin Yu's eyes. "I have a bottle of medicinal liquid here. You just need to spray it on your body and the person you want to seduce will fall deeply in love with you." As soon as she finished speaking, Jin Yu took out a porcelain bottle from her lapel and handed it to Shui Rower. "I originally wanted to give this medicinal liquid to Yi Qi. In the end, that girl didn't fall for my trick, so I can only give it to you." Shui Rower took the medicinal liquid hesitantly and asked, "Can this medicinal liquid really make Xianxia fall in love with me?" She had always been vigilant. Who knew if this medicinal liquid was poisonous? That was why she asked such a question. Jin Yu sneered, "Only 1 drop of the medicinal liquid can have such an effect. If you don't believe me, you can find someone else to try. This is all I can help you with." Hearing this, Shui Rower put away the medicinal liquid with ease. She looked up at Jin Yu and asked hesitantly, "Then why are you helping me?" Jin Yu glanced at her. "My master has taken a fancy to Yun Luofeng and naturally wants to separate them. Otherwise, why do you think I'm looking for Yi Qi? That's all I have to say. Whether you're willing to use this medicinal liquid or not is up to you." She was not as patient with Shui Rower as she was with Yi Qi. After saying what she needed to say, she left the restaurant without any hesitation. Not long after Jin Yu walked out of the restaurant, she turned into an alley. At this moment, a small figure fell from the sky and landed in front of her. Jin Yu knelt on the ground, cupped her fists and said respectfully. Standing in front of her was a little boy of a few years old. He looked very cute, but his face carried a demonic charm and coldness that did not match his age. A pair of black eyes flickered with a cold and gloomy light. "Why did you do that?" Bai Su slowly walked towards Jin Yu and gently raised her chin, looking down at the woman who was kneeling on the ground. "Don't you know that Xianxia is immune to all poisons? Your charm has no effect on him." Jin Yu lowered her head. "This subordinate knows, but that little girl is too presumptuous. She actually claimed that she was not worse than Yun Luofeng. If Yun Luofeng was really that bad, Master wouldn't want to marry her. This subordinate just doesn't like it when others question Master's judgment. This is why I made the decision on my own. Please forgive me, Master." In the beginning, Jin Yu did not acknowledge Yun Luofeng's excellence. However, she had witnessed his growth over the past year. If not for this, Master would not have wanted to rope her in. Chapter 8:17. Forget it, I can forgive you for this, but you can't make decisions on your own in the future. Bai Su raised her hand and helped Jin Yu up from the ground. "Our plan to make use of the Yi family has been destroyed. Now, I can only recover from my injuries." Jin Yu raised her head and her expression returned to its usual coldness. In the private room of the restaurant, Yi Qi looked at the table full of dishes and had no appetite. She leaned against the back of the chair tiredly and lowered her head. At this moment, the door of the private room was opened. When she saw Shui Rower walking in, her eyes suddenly lit up. She stood up and said, "Rower, you're here?" Shui Rower smiled gently. Her picturesque eyebrows relaxed and she walked towards Yi Qi. "Qi, you must have waited for a long time, right? Sorry, I had something to attend to, so I'm late." "It's okay," Yi Qi waved her hand generously. "These dishes are a little cold. I'll get the waiter to heat them up later. By the way, Roa, where did you go just now? Why are there straws on you?" Yi Qi raised her hand and brushed away the straw on Shui Rower's back. Her eyes were full of curiosity. At this moment, she did not see the fluster in Shui Rower's eyes when she brushed away the straw. I don't know where I got it from." Shui Rower calmed down and smiled. "It's getting late. Let's eat first. You should go back after that. Otherwise, Madam Yi will definitely be angry. I don't want to destroy the harmony of your family because of me." Shui Rower lowered her head sadly. Her face was full of depression. Her expression seemed to be happy that Yi Qi's family was reunited, but at the same time, she was sad that Yiqi could no longer be friends with her. Yiqi originally wanted to question Shui Roa if she really wanted to hit on Yunxiao. However, seeing her like this, she could not say anything. She opened her mouth to comfort Shui Roa. However, before she could say anything, a burly man broke through the door and said while panting, "Roa, something happened to your family." "What did you say?" Shui Roa blinked in confusion and asked, "What happened to my family?" "Ro, your house has been burned down. Your sick mother has also been buried in the sea of fire." The burly man seemed to have used all his strength to say this sentence. Shui Roa's vision turned black and her body fell backwards. Yiqi reacted quickly and held Shui Roa's body. Her voice was trembling. How did this happen? Why would there be a fire in Roa's house for no reason? Just when Yiqi's eyes were filled with anxiety, Shui Roa, who had her eyes closed, opened her eyes and made eye contact with the burly man. "I don't know what happened either." The muscular man's eyes flickered as he said, "I heard from the neighbors that there's a little girl in red clothes around Roa's house. I'm not sure if she has anything to do with the fire. An 8 or 9-year-old girl dressed in red. Could it be fire?" Yiqi did not see the exchange of gazes between the two of them, so when she heard the sturdy man's words, the first thing she thought of was fire. Who asked that little girl to be someone with a criminal record? Chichi. Shui Roa grabbed Yiqi's hand tightly as tears flowed from her eyes. "I believe in fire. This matter definitely has nothing to do with her. Even though she beat me up fiercely, I don't believe that this girl is so ruthless that she would set a fire and kill someone. It's just that my poor old mother, who was paralyzed in bed, left me just like that.